like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education, Tuesday, December 17th, 2013 at 6:45 p.m. Kathy, would you call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Here.
Hodge?
Here.
Impastato?
Here.
Locke?
Here.
Here.
Reynolds?
Here. Mr. Hodge, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hitchens, are there any items moved or changed to tonight's agenda? There are not. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Stoops, second by Locke. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The agenda is approved. Tonight I would like to invite Coach Piron and his state winning football team ahead. We'd like to celebrate the success of that.
I'm waiting for two guys. You just gotta wait a second. It's the most important things, and I'll let you leave them for the meeting tonight, Dr. Hitchens. But I need them back for our banquet tomorrow.
Okay.
So let them. I send our two strongest guys, Minity and Fraser. So hold on. Give me just 1 second. This is very important.
Maybe Mr. Andrews can do some.
Mr. Andrews can talk about me while
I'll fill in as he goes.
We don't want dead air.
Yeah, exactly. School board, thank you very much. It's an honor as the athletic director, just standing in front of a great school board, supporting a great school and a great district. And you're about to meet probably some of the best young men I've been around. As an administrator, as a teacher, as a coach, I've been lucky enough to coach state championship teams and coach individual state champions. And nothing compares to these guys right here. And there is some hard work.
That wasn't
And just with that, as a leader of the athletic department, I see a lot of athletes, work with a lot of coaches, see a lot of student athletes, and these are the best of the best. And it's with hard work of our coaching staff, the dedication of our coaching staff, the support of our administration, the support of the school board, allows this to happen. And it's just, again, it's through the support of everybody. It's an entire community effort that this happens. And it doesn't happen very often, 101 years. And so we're sitting here at a very special time just to honor these guys, just the senior captains here. But again, it's an entire team, an entire community that makes this happen. And it's with your support that allows that. And I'm just proud to be the athletic director, proud to be an administrator, proud to be a community member, in this very special time. And if anybody is out at DeKalb a couple Saturdays ago on November 30th, you would have seen the community's support that this community has for this school district and for these young men. And I just, again, thank you very much. And Coach Piron would like to talk. And so
how much time do I have?
I'll turn it over to you.
You're going to get your money's worth. Before we do that, you guys look like you're missing something. Let's just do this right off the bat. Captains, if you could take care of a little order of business. You will be required to, now it's a little bit of luck.
Thank you very much.
You guys.
Some of you are in the right place at the right time. But you need to wear those, please. Take them out.
Proudly.
As school board members during this time, you could probably wear those to the meeting and every meeting. Actually, for the rest of the year, we would like you to wear those.
All right.
We usually
My
wear
kids
them
are going to be so excited.
Yeah.
You guys, thank you.
school, shower, whatever. So I don't forget, I had some of our coaches come with tonight. Coach Holm, why don't you stand up? He's a Bulldog, if you will, former Bulldog, Batavia graduate, longtime Batavian, and our defensive coordinator. Coach Kalowski, if you wouldn't mind standing up. He's a very big guy, very nice man. He really does an awful lot with our off-season training with our kids and our linemen. And then new addition to our staff, I just want to bring this up. Over the past 5 or 6 years, we've really worked hard, and I want to thank you with hiring teachers that could coach. And we've added to now the football staff, I believe, about 6 or 7 teachers that are in our football program, lots of them in math. So the next guy I'm going to introduce, he's in PE, whatever. But, so Coach Cal Mateo is a brand new hire as a defensive backs coach. I worked with Coach Holm this year. Was a great addition to our program. Very proud that we could add him. And we do have, as Dr. Hitchens knows, 5 of our coaches are math teachers at the high school, which we're very proud of, and a little bit uncommon, to be honest with you. Most schools, you don't have a football staff made up of so many math teachers, so I don't know what that means. So, all right, now I'm going to talk. I'm going to try not to twitch and jerk guys too much tonight in front of everybody. It's a problem that I have when I get nervous. So we'll see how it goes. Dr. Hitchens, we'll see. I want to talk a little bit about the team and these guys. And I'll wrap up, and then one of our captains, our quarterback, Micah Coffey, is going to talk a little bit too. We're going to talk to you about a number of things. Obviously about our football team. We're extremely proud of the success that we had this year and the monumental achievement. Obviously, winning a state title is something that's a really big deal, especially in a community like this, something we're very proud of. But for a lot of these young men, it was a dream they had when they were little boys in our school system here in our community, and something that they were allowed to plan and dream and think for. And those opportunities were only improved by success of previous generations, but also, thank you, and I can't go without saying this, some of the facility improvements that we made from our last time we were in that game in 2006, and many of you may remember that, but on the heels of going to the state championship game that spring, we had some needs. We passed overwhelmingly a referendum in this community, despite the fact that most in Illinois failed referendums. And that led to our field house, fitness center, which we now have, which is state-of-the-art, as good as anybody in Illinois. We're so proud of. Our music, arts, auditorium, really inside our building, our structure, really one of the most comprehensive, most beautiful, most functional, best schools in the state of Illinois. And a wonderful thing that happened. And so these young men benefited a lot. We talked about history. They understand history. They understand what's come before them. And so some of you, many of you, lived in the town at that time, and we're grateful for those changes and things that occurred back then. So we're going to talk a little bit about tradition, and we've worked hard towards this moment. Alums, coaches, administrators, everybody. Close calls, lots of success, many sports, but we've always been right there, almost always had that opportunity. Our slogan that we took this year was all in. And to us, it meant all of the players were going to put everything they had into the season. But besides that, which we knew that they would because they care so greatly about not just winning, but about success in the classroom and the community, we included everybody that we possibly could. And I think you saw that throughout our season. Whether it was them working Saturday mornings at BYF Youth Football with our program that we run and have operated now for a decade. And to understand that a little bit, let me explain. On Saturday mornings after a game, win or lose now, granted they've been winning a lot, so it's not so difficult to get up on Saturday mornings. But we go over to Rotolo Middle School, and these guys quarterback and coach first and second graders. Now they aren't playing on their cell phones when they're doing it, if you've ever been there. They're not laying on the ground unattached or not paying attention to these kids. They are actively involved, in fact maybe too much sometimes, running around quarterbacking, and there's nothing better when some little kid picks off Micah Coffey in a first and second grade game, or Skeisha gets sacked, or, Now, we did have a guy sprain his ankle this year. I was a little concerned, but they have fun doing it. It isn't something they do that they have to do. Is anything that anybody makes them do. I think history has dictated that they are obligated to do it. It's the type of young people we have in this community. When I've talked to other towns who have thought about trying to do it, they say, how do you make your guys do that? I go, I don't make them. They love it. They do it. They care about the young people in this town because they know how they were treated by students when they were younger, and it's a really special thing. So we wanted to get everybody moving in the same direction. Well, these guys took care of it. Involving, first of all, parents. We have a lot of support around our program, VIP Group, Quarterback Club, really just the support of parents we always have in this community. Bless you. The community, the mayor, Police and fire department, as you see, going out into and out of any game. It's amazing. You're going to call on your cell phone. Where do you want the fire trucks, Coach? What do you want to do? I'm sure that doesn't happen a lot of places anymore. I can guarantee you that. This is really a special town. Our coaches, we have a tremendous amount of stability in our coaching staff. Coaches who've been there for a number of years. And thanks to recent hirings and the ability of us to go out and find the best talent, coaches we've added are some of the finest, if not the finest, in all of Illinois. I think if any of the comments you listen to on the television or any indication of our game planning, our preparation of our kids, they will tell you how hard our coaches work and how smart they are and how much time they put in to practice in the game, but also because we all are also teachers. You drive by the school, I'll be challenged. I'll challenge you not to find a time when Coach K's red Cherokee is parked out front at 4 a.m. in the morning, or any of our coaches' cars are there until 10 o'clock at night. So hard-working people and hard-working kids, very proud. We're lucky for the facilities that we've added in recent years and making very efficient training possible for kids. Our Excel PE program, which they're all part of, allows them to go home after practice and study, which has been a big part of what my goals were, Dr. Hitchens, when you were our principal, and I told you the things that mattered to me. They were first and foremost education, educational excellence, communication, something I wanted to make sure was very, very important for our parents and our families, and then community. And I hope I'm doing a good job. Now you're in a different seat, but that's what we've tried to do, and that's what these young men have allowed me to do. So we've hired excellent people. Future. You know, our seniors, like our 2006 team, are very, very excited about things they're hearing that are happening. And I know that you guys recently decided to make some changes, or allow us to make changes to our facilities at the high school. Bravo is what I say to you. Those facilities were there when I was born, which is 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And that school was built for a much, much smaller school. It was out in the middle of a cornfield. And I want to thank you for making the decision to allow us to proceed so that our kids, as excellent as they are in athletics, get the same opportunities that schools basically all around us. I think you're aware of our travels in the playoffs this year. We practiced at Mooseheart and West Aurora, all playoffs, because we had to. There's really no other way for me to say that, and you can ask the Building and Grounds group. As hard as they work, it was impossible for us to use our facilities. And so we were lucky we had some good neighbors and people that allowed us to use that. And I know these guys, even though they aren't benefactors of it, are looking forward to the day when they can come back to a game in appropriate stadium and facilities. And so thank you for your efforts with that. They're very exciting. Let's talk about football. Program history. So we've been to the playoffs 17 out of the last 23 years. I was a coach under Mike Gasperry, Hall of Fame coach here at Batavia High School. Extremely proud of the program that when he retired, I was lucky enough to get hired for, thank you again, and inherit. So awesome. We've had 8 conference titles in that time. Recent history, and a number of these guys played on the team with us 3 years ago. All of them were brought up for the playoff run 3 years ago, so they all got a lot of experience on that team. That year we were just this close to going to the state championship game. And I know they remembered seeing how that was. A year ago, they were very, very devastated, this group of young men, in our loss in the first round to a really, really strong Downers Grove team. Those things fuel you, and I think the fuel brought these guys closer together and really allowed them to have the type of season that you saw this year. They're very talented young men, but the story's not always as simple as it seems. We had our share of trials and tribulations and injuries, and guys that almost couldn't play, or players that performed one year were JV players and the next year were starters. We're at our awards night tomorrow night. Some of the statistics that I'll share with these guys are phenomenal in regards to guys on their teams that last year didn't play, that this year were people that everybody saw every week making big plays in the playoffs. Really a neat thing. And that opportunity that's been allowed to those kids through the size of our program, and again, the support of our school board and our school district, really means great things for kids with those opportunities. So 8 conference titles, 3 in a row. We have not lost a conference game in the past 3 years, and we beat you here 3 years in a row. And I understand how important that is, Dr. Hitchens. So we'll continue to do that. Okay. You gotta be careful. Is this on television? I wish them luck next year. 34 and 3. 34 wins and 3 losses. Guys, thank you for padding my first 3-year statistics. It's going to be hard for me to have a losing record as a coach, so I appreciate the effort. Thanks, guys. That's pretty good. I think mathematically, what is that, Coach K? 91, 7154? Yeah. Okay, good one. All right. We had 2 All-State football players here, and an honorable mention player, which is really neat. We've never had 3 players recognized on the All-State team in any fashion. I think we have more that could have been recognized. We have 20 All-Conference players, 14 first team, and 6 honorable mention. We had the UEC Players of the Year on offense and on defense. And there's some other things I'm going to share with you in a second. I want to introduce to you Micah Coffey, who's our quarterback, who also was the National Football Foundation Chicago Metro Award winner. Now, awards get kind of spewed out, and you hear this kid does that or that. Let me explain what that's all about. 3 athletes in all of Northern Illinois get chosen from football teams around the state to win this award. Last year, if you remember, Zach Stripmatter won the Chicago Metro Award. Zach was put in a pool of players from around the nation. Okay? They have chapters in every single metro area, every state that there is. Zach, this last week, was at Waldorf Astoria in New York City, presented with the National Award from NFF. Now, the people that he was up there with, Zach was almost embarrassed. He said, why am I here, Coach? I'm not like this kid from Notre Dame and this kid from Harvard and this kid from Air Force. I go, Zach, you belong. I just want you to be proud, board members, of the type of kids that we are producing. Fine young men, fine young women, and student athletes who are able to compete against every school in the state of Illinois for prestigious awards. The NFF award Michael will get in February up at Hallis Hall. The Chicago Bears, which actually invited some of us guys, we don't all get to go. Sorry, the captains. Anyhow, the Bears are one of the organizations, obviously, that sponsor the National Football Foundation Award for academic and athletic excellence, also charitable work. And Micah doesn't want to talk about that, but he won the award 2 years in a row. 3 winners from Chicago, and both from the same high school. They told me it's never happened in the history of the award. So really a phenomenal thing that he'll be presented with in February. So Mike is going to talk a little bit about athletics, get me out of here, and talk about a little bit of things he's done in the community.
Academics.
What did I say?
Athletics.
Oh,
Academics.
I'm thinking so much about not twitching. Academics? Mike's going to talk about academics and give back. Micah.
So, like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about academics. And one thing that's really emphasized before the season even gets started is that we need to get our work done in the classroom before we can get our stuff done on the football field. And from Coach Piron to Coach Gasperi, it's always emphasized that state championship teams are made up of state championship students. And that is the work in the classroom that's going to transfer over to the wins on the field. And this year, our team GPA was 3.33. We had 40% of our team on the Upstate 8 Conference academic all-conference team. 33 of the 81 players. We had almost 40% on the honor roll on the varsity team, and on our playoff roster, which included some of the sophomore kids, 46% of those kids are honor roll students. From college opportunities, we have had 100+ college visits. Schools visiting, wanted to talk to players, and one thing that they're very surprised with is just how academically kind of advanced we are, and how well our academics are, and they're always usually impressed with not only our ability to play football, but also the way that we are able to compete with those around the nation in the classroom. Like Coach said, we had Zach Stripmatter win that amazing award last year, and that's mainly just because of his work in the classroom and his work within the community. And on our football team, we have the #1 ranked students in the junior and senior class, and so that just kind of goes to show that these guys are guys that put in the work to become not only the best football players, by hitting the weight room, hitting the practice field, but by also hitting the books and making sure that we've got the best grades around. And Coach talked a little bit about community and how much this community means to us. And as it's been announced to us so many times, and something that we kind of preach a lot, is that we grew up together. This is a community that has watched all of us grow up, and these are guys that I've known for my whole life. And so it says on here that 78 of our 81 players went to Batavia grade schools. And, that's really important for, kind of going through the playoffs and you play these private schools with guys that have been together for 4 years. And you kind of see that the relationships are so much different than the teams that have been together for their whole lives. And so, just the bonds that we've created and the way that we're able to play based on just that love that we have for each other, the love that we have for this community that you guys have shared, it just really means a lot. We've also done, we've also taken opportunities to kind of give back to the community, whether it be through the Northern Illinois Food Bank, the Batavia Food Pantry, like he said, the Batavia Youth Football, which is kind of what all of us are most familiar with every Saturday, going out and playing with those kids. And I know it's something that, I actually took a visit back to Alice Gustafson, my old elementary school, this past week and talked to the first grade students, and a couple of those kids were on my team. And, they were running around hollering, we had such a great team, we had such a great team. They're all like, he's my coach. And I was able to go up and down the hallways and see kids that I've coached before. And kids that just because of, the Batavia football logo on the front of my sweatshirt, they were able to kind of identify, that, they want to be part of that group someday. And so, I think that program, that Junior Bulldog program is something that is so special, something that I was a part of and a lot of these guys were a part of. It's just a really special thing. And coming back from the state championship game, the stuff that we were hearing from the community and stuff that the community did for us was something that I know I'll never forget. From the block party being thrown downtown to Pal Joey serving us pizza. And so it's just the support that we get from the community. I kind of had the opportunity that Coach let me carry the trophy and walk down River Street with it. And the amount of people coming up and taking pictures with it and wanting to congratulate me, and all the people that were there just supporting us is something that's that just means a lot to us. And so, I'm kind of here on behalf of the team just to kind of say thanks to all you guys for just continued support. In one of our games before, in one of our team dinners before a playoff game, I stood up and I talked a little bit about how, a night before a game, you should always take time to think about those who have gotten you there. Those who have put so much into your life that have allowed you to play, the game that we love. And it's teachers, it's parents, it's all the people that have gotten us to practice, all the coaches that we've had that have put so much into us and gotten, for themselves they don't really get a whole lot out of it, but it's just pouring into us that they love to do, and it's something that we are definitely very appreciative of. And so, like Coach said, the football awards are always great, but it's something that we took pride in this year is hitting the books and being able to compete with other schools. Academically, being one of the top schools in our area academically, as you can see by the amount of players that we have on the honor roll, the the academic all-conference team, and then academic all-state teams. Something that I kind of skipped over was that over the last 3 years, we've had 21 academic all-state players. Those are all-conference players that are also on honor roll. And so we had 9 2 years ago, 7 last year. We've got 5 this year. So that's 5 of our 14 all-conference players that have hit the book so hard that they have worked to achieve a certain GPA and be recognized as academic all-state players. And so, Coach just wanted me to get up and talk a little bit about just the academic success we have, and I just want to thank you guys for everything that you guys have done.
Thank you.
You know what, we made him go last because you don't want to follow Mike up.
Yeah.
He's got certain- I'm sure you know why we're as successful as we're with leadership like that. Brought a number of other guys with us tonight that I want to introduce to you here in a second. We were obviously highly decorated. You've read all the papers, so you know all the different awards, the UEC Players of the Year, the Daily Herald Team Captains. We had from our team the Kane County Conical Players of the Year, Coach of the Year. Kind of a twist, sorry. Beacon News Player of the Year, although I know Skeisha didn't like the article too much. Number 2 ranking at the end of the year, all schools in Illinois. A lot of the Chicago papers had us ranked number 2 behind Mount Carmel, though these guys would have liked to play them. They'll play them now in a snow bowl. This is on TV. We'll meet them over at any park and play them. That's fine with us. We've never been ranked as high as we were this year. And in a lot of the national polls, we cracked the top 150, which might not seem like much, but you don't even normally get in that group if you haven't won multiple state titles in your state before. That's really a neat thing. Mentioned the National Football Foundation Awards. 2 years in a row, we've had people cited by the IHSA for sportsmanship awards with the state of Illinois. Dave gets that information really pretty neat. And as I mentioned, in a couple weeks, a number of us are going to the Bears game. Chicago Bears bring you to the game and honor you at halftime. Really kind of a new thing they're doing. Really think that's pretty cool. I'd like to introduce to you some of the guys that are about this evening. Leaders in our school, they're either a team captain for us, or they are an academic all-state, or some other type of an award that I felt would be meaningful reason that they should be here. So I'll introduce them as I go. We'll start out with Anthony Thelk. Here, just kind of, why don't you step out? I'll stand you right here. We'll stand in front. Anthony Thelk, one of our team captains, linebacker, outstanding player, numerous media awards all throughout Chicagoland to end up the season, and really a fine young man, and really a heart and soul of our defense. Anthony Scatia, let's come on out. Anthony Scatia, obviously, was an all-state football player, player of the year, a number of the local newspapers. They're #1 player on their team, and Anthony, for us, was a driving force behind our offensive success. And again, for those of you parents of sons that aren't, 6'2" and 250 pounds, Anthony's success this year was a lot on heart and sheer will and effort. Not many kids that I've ever coached that go and compete at the level that he does, and he seems bigger than life, I know, on the football field, and just a great young man. Our quarterback, you already met, Micah Coffey, academic all-state, honorable mention all-state, and an NFF award winner for Chicago Metro, numerous all-conference and all-area teams. Next captain is Forrest Gilbertson, also academic all-state. Forrest, a 2-year starter, 2-year all-conference football player for us, a great leader in our program, leader of our defense. Rourke Mullins, 2-way player for us, honor roll student, would be a all-conference, all-state, all-conference academic, and really, again, a young man that became a captain of our team, much like Anthony, through off-season effort, work, and leadership, not only in our team, but outside of the team and in the building. Ryan Minetti, another young man that was named a captain off-season, all-conference football player, a very tough bulldog, and he looks like one. So Ryan's another great leader of our kids, and right now is trying to get our juniors and our sophomores going in the weight room. I know he's going to give them great advice. And then a few other guys I brought with tonight, either from an academic standpoint or from a recognition standpoint. I'll start out with Tucker Knox. Tucker Knox was an academic all-state player for us, all-conference football player, really, really important part of our teams, especially as a special teamer, our punter. Donovan Kilker is an academic all-state, great student, linebacker for us, was one of those kids I mentioned. I think he had 3 tackles as a junior, and this year was a starter for us, an exceptional season. Noah Frazier, a junior, unbelievable student, I believe #1 in his class at this point in time. 2-way football player for us, tight end and defensive end, all-conference, academic all-state, very, very good leader, and I'm sure to be a captain tomorrow night at our banquet. And then Michael Moffitt, you maybe have heard a lot about his story, but last year had difficulty playing because of illness. And he figured it out, got healthy. You've probably read he battles Crohn's disease. And as a junior, wasn't sure if he was going to be able to play football this year. And not only did he play, but he played at such a high level that he was chosen to Class 6A All-State team by the coaches in Illinois. In addition to that, has also been named to numerous, not just local, but Chicagoland All-State and first team and second team football teams around Illinois. Really a wonderful story for Michael and all these young men that are up here. And whether they're a captain, academic all-state football players for us, again, what Micah talked about earlier and what they care about and have always cared about is academic achievement. And something that wouldn't be possible without school board. You're obviously support of our schools, hiring the best and the brightest teachers, coaches, administrators, and providing for all of our kids in this town comparable facilities to those that are around us. I want to really thank you for doing that. Okay, guys? All right. Thank you. Well, hold for a second, in case anybody has anything to say, and then we'll dismiss you then.
I would like to just say on behalf of the board that we are really proud that you, as a team, find education and athletics and community together to not just create a championship athletic team, but to create a team of character that we can really be proud of as a community. So thank you so much for the work you guys have done this year. We're really proud of you on so many levels.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. No, just one right here, yeah. Just leave it here. Is there a problem with it?
Now we're going to call for our
Do
student
you want to leave it here, or
ambassador.
should we take it?
Set it right down.
I think Coach Grant
Do you wanna
is
hear from the
distraction
meeting?
now. Oh, yeah.
Do you want it here?
Yeah.
Put it here. Oh, jeez.
Do not break it though.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think Nick Burkhog was actually, or Jake Burkhog was actually in back, but I don't know if he's still back there. I don't know if he
So we're
can make it
gonna
through the
start
crowd, so we'll start
I
with
can
Megan.
roll solo, it's okay.
All right, Megan's gonna roll solo.
All right, I try to keep it short, but we've got a lot of congratulations to give, so I
Good.
apologize.
That's awesome.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the state football team. That was a great accomplishment. I would also like to congratulate 78 Illinois State Scholars that were recently named. So that was a really big deal. Jake, there you are.
We moved though, so.
Oh, okay. Jake's here. It's all good. Okay.
Yeah, he was in here.
I'd also like to congratulate, we've got two of the major newspapers in the area, Daily Herald and King County Chronicle. Their academic achievement programs had several nominees from the school. I don't have all their names, unfortunately, they weren't released, but we've got about 9 individuals from our senior class that were nominated, so congratulations to them. Also to Batavia High School's music department for winning a Grammy Award.
Yep.
I did not know that was a thing, but it's a thing. So 9 high schools got that award, and we were one of them for being the first ever high school to produce Shrek the Musical. So that was a big award. I know my friends were very excited for that. Congratulations to the Lady Bulldogs for having a 9-1 record so far, and that's basketball, for anyone who doesn't know. So keep that winning streak open, and same with men's basketball. They will be facing Geneva on January 10th at 7:15, so that's their next game. So hopefully we can get some more community support for that. I know they're really excited. More congratulations to all of those seniors accepted under early decision or early action. I know that's a big relief for a lot of students, and we'd like to congratulate all those that are moving on to bigger and better things. Also, this week was Rachel's Challenge Holiday Week, kind of following up 12 Days of Rachel, and so we were trying to get some holiday spirit into the high school before finals week. So Monday started out with Pajama Day, which was quite fun. There were a lot of onesie pajamas and Mickey Mouse pajamas. It was great. Today was Hawaiian Shirt Day, so that definitely brightened up the hallways. And then tomorrow is Christmas Sweater Day. So Christmas Sweater Day. And National Art Honor Society will also be selling hot chocolate, so it's kind of a nice, fun day before finals week starts, which we would like to definitely wish them luck on that. I know I might need a little luck. It's okay though. Calculus is interesting. Other than that, we've got the theme for Sadie's, which is Great Gatsby. Not really surprising, fantastic movie. And then AP Art and Photo 2 will be hosting an art show tomorrow in the Batavia Fine Arts Center from 5 to 7 to show off all of their accomplishments that they've achieved over the term of their semester. So if you can come out, I know they really appreciate it when, you know, people come out and see their art and see what they've been working at. So finally, we'd like to give best wishes for students for finals and happy holidays and safe travels over the Christmas break.
Thank you.
And look.
This year we had a presentation with our gym teachers coming around during a period, and they explained a whole bunch of new class options that we had. And I had a lot of students come up to me and ask, is there a way that we could take more than one? Because they have a whole bunch of new options like adventure, PE, or advanced health. And the issue is that with athletes that already have to take Excel because of the sport they're in, you know, normally you can't take another gym option. And we, you know, as a collective group, were kind of wondering what was the policy on that, and we want to have a group to kind of see what we could do. And how maybe if, you know, a student had all of their required credits for all the class they needed to graduate, but maybe they could take another PE option such as advanced health and Excel, or advanced health and adventure PE. So that's the one thing I wanted to say.
I'll work on that for you.
Excellent, thank you so much.
So other than that, happy holidays.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's really fun to hear all of the great things that are going on in our schools, and if you guys weren't here, we're not always aware of them, so thank you both.
Thank you.
Can one of you guys or both of you email me your email address so
Oh, yeah.
that I can get or answer back to you?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, now we're going to move
Just
on.
clarification.
Oh.
When was that art presentation?
Tomorrow night.
Art show.
Art show
Tomorrow.
and
Okay.
be fast.
5 o'clock, I think.
5.
The art show, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 to 7.
Now we're going to move on to the public hearing on our 2013 tax levy. I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So much.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Gasper, all in favor?
Aye.
The purpose of the levy hearing is to comply with truth in taxation law and to allow the public an opportunity to comment on the levy. During the levy hearing, the superintendent and assistant superintendent will first give a short presentation on the levy and the background. At the conclusion of the presentation, I will call up members of the public who have signed up to speak. After public comment, the board members will have the opportunity to comment. At the conclusion of the hearing, we will resume the regular board meeting. If you are making a public comment, your time will be limited to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining, and then at 3 minutes, I will invite the next speaker to address the board. We really appreciate how the public's always been respectful in their comments and mindful of other people's time to comment by keeping distractions to a minimum, so we're hoping we can continue that tonight. Kathy, do we have all the pink sheets for anyone who wanted to comment?
We do.
All right. Audience members who've not signed up to speak can still submit their comments in writing on a blue sheet to Kathy. Dr. Hitchens has a list of people who have contacted her with their request to speak, and when we start with speakers, we will be beginning with those speakers. When you come up to address the board, please join us at the table and state your name and address prior to making your comments. So first we'll have the presentation, and then we'll be calling for public comments. Come on, Dr. Hitchens.
Sure, I will start us off. We're going to start this 2013 levy hearing with what I think is the most important message of this night, which is we plan to lower taxes while improving education for the children of Batavia School District. By our estimation, the school district's portion of everyone's tax bills, the average Batavia resident we're predicting would pay $28 less in taxes next year than they paid this year. So we will hear from Assistant Superintendent Mon, who's going to review the levy, and he's going to provide you with the background information that brought us to where we are today. Our board, our finance committee, and our community has been informed about this many times in the last year while we adopted the 13-14 budget and we prepared the levy. We had meetings, finance committee meetings, regular board meetings, posted the minutes. The public has been invited. To send their comments to us, to speak tonight, to email the board. We've incorporated their questions into this presentation and the questions from the board. Hopefully will get answered during this presentation. So I will turn it over to Dr. Mon.
Thank you, Dr. Hitchens. To begin, we can go to the next slide. The 2013 proposed tax levy comes to $62.6 million in our operating funds, plus an additional $10.4 million in the bonds and interest. It's contained in your board book, the individual levies that we are requesting. The education levy of $44 million, operations and maintenance of $7 million, $2.5 million in transportation, $750,000 in municipal retirement, $1,050,000 in Social Security, $7.3 million in special education. That really makes up the levy request. The bonds and interest we show here for just educational purposes, but that is an amount set by our debt service schedule that the county clerk will extend on your behalf. If we can go to the next slide, please. The increase over last year's extension, which is how we got to the truth and taxation notice that we published in the paper. Anytime you request a levy of more than 5% of your prior year's extension, so if you're going to increase your request by more than 5%, you're required to publish a notice in the paper and hold a public hearing to take testimony from the community. In our operating funds, which is to what the truth and taxation applies, last year's extension was $55.4 million, and like I said, we are requesting 62.6. It's an increase of 12.92%. Bonds and interest is almost identical. We are going up just slightly over where we were last year. In total, $65.8 million extension to a $73 million levy request. That's an increase of 10.88%. Those are the numbers that were listed in the public notice that we had to put in the paper. Those are big numbers, but as we've all discussed many times and has been out in the community now, this increase is derived largely from the dissolution of Aurora TIF number 2, which expired or dissolved in June of 2012, and the city of Aurora still received the taxes for last year that were payable this year. It comes back onto the tax rolls now, and so the 2013 taxes that those properties pay would be payable to the school district in 2014. When a TIF dissolves, the property gets returned essentially as new construction. It's a separate category called TIF recovery, but it's in addition to the inflationary increase that the tax cap allows in the form of CPI. So our best estimate as to what the EAV of that whole TIF area would be $92.1 million coming back as new construction. It gets added on top of the tax cap like new property. We also expect the preliminary EAV had about $3.5 million of new property from the rest of our school district. Without that TIF expiration, we would probably only be requesting around 2% over last year. That includes the CPI of 1.7 for inflation, as well as an additional amount that would have captured that $3.5 million of new property. But the addition of the TIF EAD back into that debt service base is really what's allowing us to predict a lower tax bill for the average resident in Batavia of around $28. And that again gets back to that figure that we have a set debt service payment. So by capturing all of that new property, you've expanded your property base that's paying into a set amount, so everybody's share goes down accordingly. Can we go to the next slide, please? So here is the expected tax bill. Like I said, CPI at 1.7. We are predicting that the average property will decrease in EAV by about 5%. The preliminary EAV we got was around 3.5. However, historically, our 3-year average tends to drop that by another 1.5% between the time we get the preliminary EAV and the time that any tax appeals are finalized at the county level. Total new construction of $95.68 million, and again, that would yield a decrease of about $28 for the average homeowner. That average homeowner is based on our total residential EAV divided by the number of parcels. It comes out to around a $230,000 home. Next slide. To bring a little perspective, and we talked about this at the Finance Committee today, we took a look at some of the comparable districts, some of the other large unit districts that either neighbor us or that we compare ourselves to, and took a look at both the operating expenditures per pupil that is listed and reported on the Illinois report card, and then we took a look at what all of these neighbors seem to be predicting to do with their tax bills. Out of all of them, Batavia is the only district that is predicting any type of decrease in taxes. We did not try to compare exact EAVs. We don't know the assumptions that went in. This is simply based on media reports and newspaper articles that we were able to find. So out of all of those, while it's a decrease of $28 and less than a percent, it's still not an increase. It's still a decrease over a prior year, which stands out when compared to these other districts. Next slide. One final piece of history. Going back to the 2007 levy, which was paid in the 2008 tax bills, we took a look at what that average residence would have seen their tax bill do over time. And so the gray line reflects the average tax bill in Batavia schools. The red line reflects what that bill would have done had it simply gone up by inflation, the CPIU that is used to really determine inflation for our taxes. It shows that because of the decrease that we're predicting this year, over that time period, our taxes have actually gone up less than the rate of inflation. We all remember the big jump that we had in the 2011 to 2012 year, and that came from the abatement of taxes that the board had done for the prior years in trying to adhere to the pledge that they had in the referendum of trying to keep tax rates stable. For a few years, they abated taxes to do that, and then we ran out of the resources and it just became unsustainable. So that's when we saw that large increase. Last year, there was a very minor increase of taxes. It looked like, again, less than 1% increase last year, and this year we're predicting that to go down. So inflation has now surpassed us if you go back to that 2007 tax levy. Dr. Hitchens, do you want to take this slide?
Sure. So if this levy is approved tonight, the taxpayers would see the reduction on their bills this spring from the school district's portion of the tax bill, I should say. We can't predict all of the different pieces of your tax bill, but for the school district, we're predicting a decrease in your tax bill. And as we stated prior, we used the assumption that we would be capturing this, the extra revenue, and we built it into this year's budget. So you can see up there that we had a capital and staffing plan that was approved in March by the board, and they also approved the budget in September. So we began with the hiring of the staff for this school year, and the budget was approved in September. So you can see from this slide, it's been a rebuilding year for us. After years of reductions, we're beginning to add back some staff that begin to lower class size and support our teachers in their instruction. We've been able to complete some necessary building maintenance projects that have been deferred over time, such as concrete repairs. We replaced a chiller. We're building a retaining wall around that, or a retaining wall around that chiller. We had some lighting improvements and other, ordered some blinds for JVN and plumbing repairs, things that we've put off for many years in anticipation of the levy that we would be extending. So if the levy is approved tonight, we would move forward with the bottom part of that slide, which is let's prioritize what we'll do for next year. What projects would we undertake, and what programs would we talk about prioritizing to bring back, or any staff adjustments we can make for next year. If we do not levy the full amount tonight, I know many of you had questions about what that would mean for us as a district. And instead of sitting down and prioritizing next year's budget about what we could rebuild, we would be trying to figure out what we would, what reductions we would have to make for next year's budget. So the things from this year we've already made the improvements, and we've already hired the staff, so we would operate in a deficit this year. And then for next year, we would, as we built the budget, try to figure out what to reduce. And so again, I'll end the levy presentation with the same message that I started out with, which I think is a good message, that we have a plan here where we could lower people's tax bills in Batavia and improve education for the students in Batavia.
Thank you, Dr. Hitchens.
Welcome.
We'd like to start public comments now. I'd like to invite Jerry O'Brien up to the table, and we'll also be letting you know who's next. Mark Borer will be after Mr. O'Brien, just so he's ready to come.
Okay, right over here.
Yes, right there. Perfect. Thank you.
This one?
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry O'Brien. I live at 30 South Redant Road in Batavia. A few weeks ago, I sent an email to all of the board members regarding this issue of lowering the tax levy. I received one response from the board president. That response, in my opinion, it didn't really address what I had to say, but my interpretation of it was that this important decision that we're here about tonight may have already been decided. If this is true, I feel it's a disappointment. School board members have a fiduciary responsibility to the school district, to the students, the employees, and the taxpayers. I think taxpayer input is critical, a critical component of this decision. My family has lived in Batavia for just over 10 years, and one of the reasons we came here were because of the schools, the library, just the whole community. We really love the community. Initially, our property taxes were about $6,000 a year, or roughly $500 a month. Our most recent tax bill was about $9,600, or about $800 a month, which is a significant increase. Value of our home has actually dipped below the price that we purchased it for 10 years ago. So even though the price of our home has not increased, certainly the taxes have, roughly about a whopping 60% over the past 10 years. And with the people that I've spoken to in the community, they all seem to have the same type of situation. I know the school district, and again, does a lot of great things, and I certainly commend you for doing your job up here, because I know it's a unpaid position and it takes a lot of time. But about 70% of those taxes that we're paying end up going to fund the school district. I think that the expiration of this TIF with the Aurora Mall and the surrounding industrial property is an excellent opportunity for the school board to balance the financial needs of the school district, excuse me, and the capacity of Batavia School District taxpayers that must pay these tax bills. Employment and income levels have not improved as many would have hoped, and so many
30
people.
more seconds, Mr. Armbruster.
Pardon me?
30 more seconds.
Okay. Many people find themselves underemployed and short of that income. In the past, taxpayers and voters of the Batavia School District have supported school district tax increases for specific projects. At this time, a tax increase would not be popular. This administrative process is one way that taxes can be increased without voter approval. The opportunity to substantially reduce the school district taxes, one estimate is about $400 for a $250,000 home, is the best outcome for the taxpayers of Batavia. I would not be so proud of the $28 reduction that's been talked about. I ask you tonight to please lower the levy. Thank you.
After Mr. Boer, Yvonne Dinwiddie. Good evening.
Hi, my name's Mark Bohr. I live over at 2049 Wagner Road in Batavia. I've lived in DuPage and Cook counties in Illinois my entire life. My wife and I moved out here to Batavia in 2001 to avoid the high taxes that exist in those counties. Nobody taxes like Kane County. My wife and I are both working professionals. We've been busting our humps since we were about 19 years old. I travel all over the country, and the people that I work with from other parts of the country wither when I tell them what I pay in taxes, literally. When I moved here, my real estate taxes were about $4,500 a year. They're now over $11,000. That's a lot of money. My home value, although it started to go up during the housing boom, we all know, we all took a hit, it's down. I used to go and I'd talk to the people at the taxing body and say, hey, you guys are taking a chunk out of me every year. Oh, well, your house is going up in value. Well, guess what? My house went down in value a lot. Did my tax bill go down? Not 1 cent. That process is one of the most unfair and inequitable processes I've ever come across. Going in there every year to fight for maybe $50 or $100 less in property taxes. Now, these young men that were here, my son was on the team a couple years ago. I'm very proud about what they've done. But you know what? There's kids from communities that are a lot poorer than this that through hard work and determination have done just what they did. Money has nothing to do with it. The facilities that you built there are great. When I went to school, we didn't have an indoor field house. We didn't have AstroTurf on the football field. We didn't have any of that stuff. You guys have the power to make a difference to all the people behind me and the people that live here. The economic downturn hurt us all. Okay, I'm working under pay rates that people that in my position made in 1995. I took a 23% pay cut after September 11th. Okay, I've been working harder and taking home less. And this is just going to make it so I get even less of what I bring home. So please, vote the levy down. Thank you.
My name is Yvonne Dinwiddie. I live at 1156 Pine Street. We've been a Batavia resident for 27 years. When we first came here, our tax bill was $1,450 or $1,460. It's now almost $7,000. Well, it's actually over $7,000. That's a whopping big increase. I came to the Finance Committee meeting this afternoon, and I gave a presentation at the Finance Committee meeting, so I will change that. For now, I will give you a different story. The school district backs into its budget because it gets the property values from the tax extension office and determines how much money you have access to, instead of budgeting only what is needed for efficient operation of the school district. With the expiration of the TIF district for Aurora Premium Outlet Malls, the school district has received a windfall of over $6 million with no addition to the student population, which gives this school district a unique opportunity to give the taxpayers a much-needed break by reducing the levy. Returning the Aurora Outlet Mall to the tax rolls ensures that the Batavia School District will still have an increase in funds every year. As I stated at the Finance Committee meeting this afternoon, the entire levy was $12.8 million in 1991, and the levy request this year is $65.8 million, a whopping 500% increase over 22 years. While taxpayer salaries have been in decline, poverty is increasing, more children qualify for free or reduced lunches and or fees, and there have been over 300 homes in foreclosure, and property values have been declining while taxes and other expenses have continually increased. Retirees on Social Security did not get any kind of raise whatsoever for 2 whole years while our expenses continued to go up. The CPI over that same 22-year period only increased 62.6%. This school district had a 500% increase in its levy, while the consumer price index only increased 62.6%. That is really unfair to the taxpayers. The school district claims that if it doesn't levy to the max, it will lose the opportunity to capture those funds in the future due to the tax cap and CPI limits.
30 more seconds.
Okay, that's untrue. The levy can be increased if you will trust the taxpayers to give you a referendum. And this school district has been, the taxpayers have been very generous to this school district in passing referendums. We've paid more in real estate taxes than we've paid for our house. If you will reduce that levy by, what did I say this afternoon? I think it was 6.46% instead of the 12.92%, the taxpayers would be grateful for the relief. And if you came back to us later on in a couple of years and you needed an increase in the levy that was over the CPI, I'm sure the generous taxpayers of Batavia would be glad to give it to you.
Will be Sylvia Campbell. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Duke Wall at 811 Manchester in Batavia. I'm living on a fixed income, and I'm not broke yet, but there's a lot of people working to make it that way. I drive a 1989 Chevy Astro van. I only put 20 bucks of gas in that car whenever I can find it cheap enough to buy. And then I go to the Aldi store. I make do, but it's getting harder and harder to make ends meet with the taxes going up and everything else around us going up. I buy what I need. I usually don't buy what I want because I don't have that kind of money. Now, I really wonder if you knew the difference between need and want here. Do you really need all of the things that you're asking for? Can you really get by with something a little bit less, especially when our economy is in the toilet? You know, I know people that are out of work right now and they're still looking for a job. And these folks here behind me wearing these red stickers, you know, they're all mad at you. They're really mad because you want to jack the taxes up on them. Can all these people really be that wrong? You know, my dad and mom went through the Great Depression. They also went through World War II. And they instilled their values into me. And I'd like to stay here for a while and try to tell you guys how you can reduce, you know, and do with a lot less. But I can't possibly do it in just 30 seconds. So please, in the last few seconds here, please lower the levy for me and the rest of these folks behind me. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
After Sylvia Keppel, we'll have Joanne Spitz and Lisa Boydell-Kramer.
I'm Sylvia Keppel. I live at 1420 Becker Avenue. I know most of you are new to the school board and as such are not directly responsible for past decisions, but the entity known as the school board maintains a certain continuity of which you are the new face. To this body, my address is made. In 2007, the school board made a promise. You promised the taxpayers of Batavia that if they voted to approve a referendum issuing $75 million in building bonds for the Fine Arts Center, the Field House, and other projects, that our tax rate would not go up because of it. Voters approved the measure based on that promise. 2 years ago, you broke that promise. And your broken promise is costing us taxpayers on average about $460 per year. Does it bother you that you broke your promise? You made excuses that you hadn't counted on the economy taking a downturn when the promise was made, and you had to raise taxes when things didn't turn out like you expected. But promises mean the most when they are most difficult to keep. That is what separates people of integrity from liars. Here's your chance to fix your broken promise. Please give us the money from the outlets mall. It would mean a drop of $400 for the average household, almost enough to make up for the $460 increase. Isn't that convenient? A chance to redeem yourself in one easy decision that won't involve making cuts to programs. The administration argues that the money is already earmarked and budgeted, essentially already spent before you even get it. That is not true. When this year's budget was approved, you had counted on $4.2 million from new construction and budgeted half that, $2.1 million, for this school year. Because the estimate has shifted to over $6 million, that means there is at least $4 million yet unbudgeted and unspent. That money can right now be given back to the taxpayers you are beholden to. If you would be serious about keeping your promise, the other $2 million can be removed from the budget later. Budgets are frequently amended, and next year's budget hasn't been crafted yet. I know the administration won't back down in their recommendation to tax the maximum amount. Superintendent Lisa Hitchens told me so directly. That is understandable. Who wouldn't want a giant purse full of spending money? But the administration didn't make any promises. The school board did. So it is up to the school board, it is up to you to vote to lower the levy in order to keep your promise. Ask yourselves what kind of example you'll be setting for the children of the school district if your promises are meaningless. What of the parent-student handbook for the elementary grades that says, quote, "We value communication that is open, honest, accessible, and reciprocal among all stakeholders." I believe taxpayers qualify as important stakeholders. Or the Rotolo Middle School handbook that says, quote, "Rotolo Middle School supports an environment that teaches and encourages honesty and integrity." Broken promises do not teach or encourage honesty and integrity. But promises kept, especially when it involves great sacrifice of things long anticipated, do. And so I appeal to you, the Batavia Board of Education, to please make good on your promise and lower the levy with the money from the Chicago Premium Outlets Mall. Thank you.
And Rose Gustafson will be after these ladies.
Good evening. I'm Joanne Spitz. I live at 1400 Huey Court in Batavia, and I've been here for 24 years. My name is Lisa Floydell, and I live at 1141 Newton Court. And we would like to say that we are pro-levy tonight. And first of all, we would like to thank the board for all of your time, effort, and the care that you show our community through your volunteerism. You live here, you work here, your kids go to school here, and you pay the same taxes that we do. There seems to be a lot of misinformation circulating. The Lower the Levy Signs website, Facebook page, are trying to scare people into thinking that our taxes are going up. It is important to note that there is no tax increase coming for Batavia Public Schools. There will actually be a small decrease in taxes for most households. Batavia is the only district in the region projecting a tax decrease. Our taxes are very much in line with neighboring communities and the suburbs in general. The per-student operational spending is lower here in Batavia than most of our neighboring districts by a significant amount, as we saw earlier. A lot of you may not realize what's been going on in our schools, but since 2010, the district has made a number of cuts in response to tough economic times. We've seen a reduction in staff and expenses at the administration offices. There's been an elimination of all-day kindergarten and elementary Spanish, as well as the building trades program at the high school. Also, class sizes are much larger now than when I moved to the district 9 years ago. For example, my kids go to Alice Gustafson, and there are several elementary classrooms there with over 30 students per class. Other important details, some of the buildings are getting old, and they require capital improvements, roofs and parking lots, and those things have been deferred for a long time. None of the TIF money is being budgeted for the athletic field, not a penny. The district has resorted to a lot of short-term borrowing, as you can see in our financial statements, just to cover their costs and spending in the spring months until tax payments come in June. If we don't take the levy now, we lose it, and we don't get it next year. And if you look at your tax bills since 2011, they have not changed.
Batavia High School has doubled in square footage and continues to use the same cost of electricity. The administration is very fiscally responsible and progressive in saving the taxpayers' money. If we don't get the levy, things will not stay the same, they will get worse. We will again be forced to increase class size and reduce staff. This was always in the plan, it's always been part of the financial projections. This was not a secret, this was nothing new. Everything is in the public record. The board, the administration, and the taxpayers knew this year was coming with the Aurora TIF expiration and saw it as a chance to stop the program cuts, stop the short-term borrowing, and start doing some of the capital work that has been deferred. Now the district can do these things with no increase to taxpayers. They are not adding new programs, they are trying to stop the bleeding in the current programming levels. It would have been much worse if we did not plan for this before. The school district knew about this, and so did the community. We were able to deficit spend because we knew the money was coming. The people in our community want new programs. They want smaller classrooms, they want capital improvements, especially to J.B. Nelson, strong schools, and high property values. We think that's what the levy will help provide, opportunities for our children while maintaining respect to the property owners. We do not want to lower the levy. Thank you. No clapping though for us.
Rose Gustafson. Rose, you've been allotted extra time because you're speaking for a group of people, am I correct?
Yes, right.
Okay. After Rose will be Will Healy.
Right, good evening. My name is Rose Gustafson, and I live at 471 Kickapoo Avenue in Batavia. This past weekend, 34 local friends and neighbors said I could speak on their behalf tonight. Most admitted that they would rather chew on their toenails than speak in public. So here I am. I hope I represent them well. Here's my personal story. It would be nice to be unique, but there are countless Batavia families just like us. My husband and I moved to Batavia 12 years ago. We bought a simple 3-bedroom home for $210,000. Our property taxes were about $3,700. We settled here to raise our 2 daughters, who are currently students in the public schools, and we appreciate the faculty and staff who work for their benefit on a daily basis. This year, our home is worth about $220,000, a 5% increase from the purchase price in 2001, but our property taxes have skyrocketed 78%, and we paid $6,600 this year, from $3,700 in 2002 to $6,600 this year. As you know, 2/3 of our tax dollars fund the Batavia Public Schools. It's nice to give taxpayers a break by lowering the levy. We live modestly, currently on 1 income, and it's a constant challenge to make ends meet. I know there are many families in Batavia who can relate to us. What a great benefit to the Batavia schools that the Premium Outlet Mall's TIF district has expired. It's fantastic that the district will realize a boost of about $6 million in 2014. The right thing to do is to lower the levy. For the hardworking Batavia taxpayers who gave the district about $54 million this year toward the overall budget of more than $70 million. By lowering the levy in a sense to rebate the TIF money back to the taxpayers, my family would receive about $400 in tax relief next year. $400! not quite the lottery, but it is real money to a family like mine. It could pay for a much-needed repair on our 8-year-old van. It could pay for some dental work that needs to be done, but we simply can't afford it. Or it could cover an airplane ticket for my 7-year-old daughter to visit her aunt in Idaho for the first time. For those of us on limited budgets and modest incomes, $400 is real money. My friend Tony said he was pushed into retirement last spring after a successful career in sales. He is 77 years old, and his family has lived in Batavia for 25 years. They plan to put their house on the market in spring because he asks you to lower the levy because retirees are being taxed out of their homes. When you were sworn in as school board members, you made this oath. I further swear or affirm I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. But before you were elected or appointed to the board, you made certain comments and promises to the community. So tonight, if you should not react to my words or to the words of my fellow Batavia residents, then please listen carefully to your own words. According to a March 13th news article that was special to the Tribune, this is what you said as candidates. Mrs. Bleakley, you said, quote, I want to be part of solutions and changes. I think it is easy to sit back and judge or criticize teachers, schools, policy, and administration. I will make the effort to be a part of positive decisions and solutions that will be in the best interest of all involved in this community, unquote. Mrs. Bleakley, in the best interest of your community, please lower the levy. Mr. Gaspar, you said, quote, I want to be financially responsible to the citizens of the district, unquote. Mr. Gaspar, on behalf of your fellow citizens, please lower the levy. Mrs. Locke, you said, quote, this one event when you lobbied for the issue of class size prompted me to become involved in the school board meetings, and since then I have seen how well the board works with the community, teachers, and administrators, unquote. Mrs. Locke, please work well with the community tonight and vote to lower the levy. Mr. Stoops, you said my background, quote, my background and specialty lends well to the demands of this position. My attention to detail, budget experience, talent identification, a focus on moving forward to resolving issues, and tenacity to come to a solution to any problem will serve the people of Batavia well. Mr. Stoops, on behalf of the people of Batavia, please solve this tax burden problem by lowering the levy. Mr. Hodge, in a candidate profile posted on the Batavia Patch in April 1st, 2011, you thought the biggest problem was, quote, the same every public entity has been facing the last 10 years, that of ever-growing expectations and demands placed upon it and accomplishing with less. Keep budget down, unquote. Mr. Hodge, on behalf of the Batavia taxpayers, please keep the budget down with your vote to lower the levy. Mrs. Impastato, you were appointed to the board this past summer, and in an article special to the Tribune, Mrs. Dremel said this about you, quote, we were hoping for someone who didn't agree with every decision the board has made. We really wanted an independent thinker, and she really struck us as someone who would take any issue and consider it analytically, unquote. Mrs. Impastato, we urge you to be an independent thinker tonight and vote to lower the levy. Mrs. Dremel, in a candidate profile posted on the Batavia Patch in April 1st, 2011, you said, quote, my greatest strength is that I don't think I already know everything, so I am willing to do the hard work of educating myself. I also have a background in business, and I'm a frequent volunteer at school, so I have a good view of both sides of the classroom. In essence, I come without an agenda, greatly respect the work of BPS 101, and look forward to an opportunity to serve the residents of Batavia, unquote. Mrs. Dremel, please serve the residents of Batavia by voting to lower the levy. If you all were still candidates, what would you be thinking? What side of this issue would you be on? Tonight you can do something totally radical. If you vote to lower the levy and return $6 million to the hardworking property owners in Batavia, that will be wonderful. It will be newsworthy. It could build tremendous community rapport. It is the right thing to do. Will you do it? Will you recall the comments you made when you were not yet board members? Will you listen to the concerns of the Batavia residents and taxpayers? Will you represent us as you have been elected to do? I thank you for serving on the Board of Education. I do not envy the task before you tonight. Batavia residents are overtaxed, and the $6 million of new money should be returned to us. I appeal to you to make a decision on this issue that is in the best interest of the residents of our community. Please vote to lower the levy. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Will Healy, 1334 Fagan Road. I'd like to thank you, Stremmel, for responding to several of my emails on this topic. And at the same time, I want to express my disappointment that no one else, either on the board or in the administrative units, bothered to ever respond. Even thank you for sending in an email. It's a disappointment after reading the minutes of the last board meeting where you said you wanted to increase communication. It should be two ways. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Because now is the time to embrace constraint in raising the tax levy. In the last 10 years, my tax levy, not my taxes, but my tax levy has increased 34.5%, with the greatest increase occurring since 2010. The increase is greater than the projections made to us as taxpayers when the last referendum was proposed and passed. Furthermore, this 13% increase in operating budget for next year is irresponsible in today's economic environment. We need to control spending so we can pay down the debt and improve our core academic programs using a consistent CPI without additional revenues. With the Batavia Public Schools consuming over 2/3 of the county's annual levy amount, it is critical that the Batavia Public Schools show leadership in controlling cost. Remember, if you're not part of the solution, you are the problem. The data presented by Dr. Moran at the last board meeting clearly shows that the enrollment peaked in 2011-2012 and is now declining. Optimistically, only 3.3%. But if you take a more aggressive, a conservative approach, it could be as much as 8% by the 2006-2017 school year, just 3 years from now. This decline plus a consumer product price index will accelerate the increase in the cost per student. Continuing to spend taxpayers' money because you have it is not the solution. With the declining enrollment and stabilizing EAV, now is the time to show constraint to the taxpayers of the district by saying we can't continue to offer every program to every child in the district. We need to make hard decisions based on what activities will increase students' knowledge and performance in key academic areas. We need to drop, discontinue, or modify programs to stay within the 2011 budget limits. Every family and viable business has learned this lesson, and so must the Batavia Public School. Since the board is going to just dutifully listen to the concerns and then vote for the levy as proposed, I am asking the board to at least charge the administrative staff to develop a detailed plan on how this extra revenue will be used to improve the academic programs that will increase what has been shown in the last board meeting, the mediocre rating of our students compared to our peer districts. We don't need more athletic teams, extracurricular activities, and facilities that add cost without academic improvement. What we need are teachers who can increase performance of our students and prepare them for the future so that our students can get high-paying jobs that will allow our students to pay their skyrocketing property taxes. Thank you. Please lower the levy.
Richard Benson?
Good evening. My name is Dick Benson. I live at 340 Water Street in Batavia. you're raising property taxes this year about 7.2 million or 13%. School tax rates have gone from $4.24 in 2002 to $6.09 in 2012, or a 43.63% increase. The major portion of that increase, 29.57%, has been from 2009 to 2012. Over 2/3 of taxes paid in Batavia are school tax. The Board of Education said when they wanted the new high school that there would be no increase in taxes. Yes, they did make a major increase in tax rates. I live in a TIF district, and my taxes go 90% to TIF. For example, if I was not in TIF, I would have paid you $7,000 this year on my taxes. I paid you $700. $6,300 went into TIF. Now, because of that, you had to have a higher tax rate to recover the $6,300 you lost from me. There's 34 units down in my area on Water Street, and say we all average $7,000 there. You lost over $200,000 in our 2-block area in taxes. Somebody else in Batavia has to make that up because of that, and nobody will tell us that, including the city. We realize that education is very important for the younger generation to prepare them for their future life, but that does not mean the school board has the right to continually dip into the pockets of us taxpayers. Why do all the teachers have to teach the same way? Students need to be ready to go into the world, whether to a job or to college. You are spending our money to prepare them for their future role in life. Spend it wisely. You should not look at it from the standpoint that there is always more if you ask for it.
About 30 more seconds.
The salaries paid to staff are higher than many in industry earn, with the administrative staff earning very high salaries and benefits. Many in industrial management would like to be earning those kinds of salaries and retirement benefits. The last few years have not been good as far as the nation's economy goes, but it seems there has been little recognition of this by the school board. You apparently do not want people to attend your budget meeting this noon when you hold it at noon, when most people are at work trying to make a living so they can pay their property taxes.
You're a little over, Mr. Benson. Can you?
I conclude by asking you to lower the tax levy in all fairness to us taxpayers. We have already paid and are entitled to a refund now. Thank you.
Mr. Morris, and after him will be Steve Larson.
You answered my question via email.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Steve Larson. After Mr. Larson will be Jeff Zlaric.
Good evening. This has been a good discussion tonight. I thought I would come to this meeting and see if I could add some perspective to the discussion. I live at 401 Fox Trail. Been here for 20 years. Served on the facility commission for the school district back in '06, and also been on the foundation board. Also, I'm a public finance advisor that actually do this kind of work on a full-time basis, figuring out levies and extensions, and you have a tough decision here. In my perspective, it's fabulous that you've got this outlet mall that's going to yield all this increased dollars from the TIF, and not many school districts would pass up the opportunity to realize that full incremental amount that you're going to get from the TIF. So I look at that as a really good thing as far as on a public finance basis. The question is, what are you going to do with the money? And a lot of people have asked that question, and I think that's a question you have to come up with and give. I mean, I haven't heard all the dialogue here, but you got to have a plan as to what you are going to do with those funds. It's certainly, you know, an opportunity to improve program. Somebody talked about capital improvements, that sort of thing. But it is also an opportunity to provide some tax relief. I mean, this is not isolated discussion here. Property tax relief discussion is pretty prevalent, you know, all over the suburbs, state of Illinois. State of Illinois is broke, so you know as school board members that you can't really depend a lot on the state to give you the funds that you need. So this added shot in the arm, so to speak, could provide great long-term financial stability to the school district, but you're going to have to balance that with what people here are requesting, some tax relief. If you do tax relief other than what you already planned, and Chris knows this, but you should abate from your bond and interest levy rather than abating from your operating levy, because you don't want to diminish that into the future. Thanks for serving as board members. You are well paid, I know, and this has been a good discussion. Everybody, I've enjoyed listening to the comments here tonight. So, thanks.
Thank you. And after him will be Trevor Steinbach.
Good pronunciation. Thanks for taking the time to let me talk. I'm a CPA. I moved to Batavia about a year ago, so I cannot talk without presenting a chart. I wanted to take a little different approach to this. I echo a lot of the same sentiments everyone else has given tonight, but I wanted to look at it a little differently. So I mapped out Batavia's enrollment for the last 10 years and Batavia's levy for the last 10 years. There's a lot of different numbers being thrown around. I think especially for the new board members, a lot of the new numbers are very confusing. The levy is the brass tacks number. And over the last 10 years, if you're looking at your organization as a scorecard, what you've been given to work with and what you've had to work with, your enrollment has increased 5.5% or so, 300 students. Your levy has increased 97% over that time period, $36 million. 500 students, 6%, $36 million, 97%. We hear a lot about cuts. I don't doubt that cuts have been made to individual classes, programs, situations within school. But when it comes down to a bottom line, when you're talking about a levy conversation, cuts have not been made. This has been a spending explosion over the last decade. So there's a lot of different numbers going into this. This is the bottom line number that the citizens of this community have to pay for that service. So I just wanted to make that clear to everyone. Thanks for letting CPA talk. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Steinbach will be Kimberly Young.
Good evening, I'm Trevor Steinbach. I'm at 1320 Anderson Drive. I've been there for 28 years and my first tax bill was $129 because it was farmland and I was at Rural Route 5. I've been a corporate vice president for National Dairy Council, a college instructor, a president of 2 not-for-profits. I currently am and 2 more. I am on their board. I am a past school board member here in Batavia and my daughter graduated in the class of 2000. This is a large Diet Coke. It's worth $1.09. When I got the slip of paper stuffed in my door on Sunday, I was a little angry about the fact that I'm going to get a $400 rebate from the levy, which will buy my Diet Coke for a year. I was not pleased. Let's talk about the $1.09 per day. Is the $1.09 worth full-day kindergarten, elementary Spanish, building trades, decreasing class sizes, improving instruction and technology? Remember, right now, in the class of 2020 are our 6th graders. They have to be tech-powered with blended learning and have the online resources to be able to compete. $1.09 a day. $1.09 a day. 21st century standards say that we need learning and innovation skills in our students, informational, media, and tech skills, and life and career skills to compete. I think that's a pretty good deal for $1.09 a day. You know, I couldn't look at kindergartners and say, Billy and Susie, look them in the eye and say, you deserve a first-rate, second-rate education in Batavia. We can't afford to let you compete with the new national standards and concepts and curriculum that is used to be in first and second grade and now appears in kindergarten. Good luck. Try to do it in half a day. Only students that have advantages of all-day kindergarten will be at U of I, Northwestern, and top schools. And I am so fearful, as a retired person, that the state of Illinois is going to dump all the pensions on the local districts, as our Michael Madigan and his people have said. You know, as a former board member, I always looked at John Kennedy in his 1957 Pulitzer Prize book, Profiles in Courage. In the book, these people did what they felt was right, no matter the criticism. I want you to think of the children of Batavia first, not pocketbooks tonight. You know, Warren Bennis, who is one of my heroes, said it best: managers do it right, but leaders do the right thing. Vote in the levy.
And after Kimberly Young will be Andy Bludzinski. I'm not sure if I was supposed to know. Kimberly Young? Is Kimberly Young not here? How about Andy Chludzinski? Okay. Then how about Jan Dant?
And next would be Mary.
Fritz-Jordan. Yeah, after Jan Dant will be Mary Fritz-Jordan. Okay.
I'm so nervous.
So are we.
No. I don't like public speaking. You know, in listening to all of this and when I first learned about it, I'm going to admit that I was confused because there's just different information out there, and I will tell you, I don't necessarily understand it all. I called the Kane County Tax Assessor's Office this past week. The first person I talked to gave me an earful about how important it is for us citizens to approach our school board and ask them to lower their levies, because school districts have become out of hand. So I am not going to say I don't claim to understand all of this, but I don't necessarily think anybody knows what's in the future for the outlet mall, for what's to come. I wonder if there's a certainty that the school district will always receive all that they need from outlet mall taxes if they do increase this levy. What if something happens to that outlet mall? We all have seen the lifespan of many outlet malls. When you travel, they go defunct and it doesn't take long. So what happens if that happens? What will happen then? If you have budgeted millions and millions of dollars on this private property, this outlet mall that does go defunct, let's just say, or some other unexpected thing occurs like what happened in 2011, just something unexpected, then how can you knock millions of dollars off of your budget? You know, if you've already planned for something that, in my mind, is not a sure thing, I just wonder, these are my questions for you. I wonder why the outlet mall shouldn't greatly benefit, as much as possible, all of the people in Batavia instead of just the schools. You know, I'm an educator myself. I love education. I love everything about it. But I feel like this particular levy, to me, it seems excessive. It seems organizationally greedy, if you will. And it just doesn't, regardless of the PowerPoints and the stuff online, and I went through everything, to me, there's something that feels off. It just sort of fails the smell test, if you will, because I feel like it is excessive. Just like everyone else, my taxes have gone up almost 80% in the 16 years I've lived in Batavia, which is outlandish. And again, let's see, another question. You know, you talk about by capturing the levy this year, you will then ensure that that money is accessible to you in the future.
So if you flip that and you say, well, by not capturing all of that money this year, what is the cascading effect of that on the taxpayers in the years to come? You know, I mean, it should go both ways. By not capturing it, what happens to outlet mall tax monies? Does that repeatedly, year after year, give taxpayers a break? And, well, I can go on, but I'm just going to end with this. I don't know the board members. I don't know. Again, I am a teacher and an educator. I fully believe in it. I disagree with the previous speaker who said, you know, full-day kindergarten is what will get children into U of I. My oldest son graduated from U of I and didn't go to kindergarten at all. However, okay, I'm just going to say that I'm just asking the board members to, you know, use the same quote-unquote smell test that I do. And if something feels off about this, don't just go with the flow. And I ask you to put aside bias you have toward education and to represent all taxpayers as a whole, not just the school.
Thank you. Mary Fritz Jordan. Oh, there she is. And then Sergio Olaki will be next. Olache.
I'm Dr. Mary Jordan, and I've lived at 923 Barclay Court for the last 26 years. And I moved here because I thought Batavia had wonderful schools. And then I had my son, and I found out that if you live in Batavia and you have an average child, they do very, very, very well. However, if you have a child with special needs, or if you have a gifted child, it fails them significantly. My mother, when I was graduated from high school, along with my other siblings, and our community came up with a referendum, I asked my mother, how was she going to vote? And she said, it is my responsibility to educate the children of my community. They did that for all 8 of you. Now it's my turn to do that. And I felt very strongly, and I thought those were very wise words. However, one of the things that I have found living here in our community is that every planning seems to be more reactive for the schools than proactive. When it came time to 2007, the high school was already over capacity when you guys even went out to get the referendum. And I know there's a lot of you individuals that weren't around at that point in time, but you used scare tactics to get the kids to pressure their parents, and also a promise, we're not going to raise the levy in order to make that happen. You guys weren't taking into account, you got to have a little nest egg to go back on. What happens if an economy does tank? And there were warning signs. There were strong warning signs at the time. So our primary responsibility is, of course, to educate the children of Batavia. You've got a great and wonderful sports program. The academic excellence, I think, has been put on the back burner enough times. And I'm referring to the GPA, you know, oh, we can't keep up with the 5-point because somebody might want to take music. And they need that extra AP class in order to get into a good college. One of the problems that I ran into when it came time for my son to go through the high school is the AP courses were far fewer than when I went through high school many decades ago. Pardon?
About 30 more seconds.
Okay, so, you know, I can go on and on about some of these different things, you know, and I can give specific comments about that. But questions that you've brought up to me tonight is, first of all, unfair comparisons. Oh, we're going to lower it compared to everybody else, but you haven't told me, if we didn't have this levy, how much would my taxes have gone up? And I think that's a very fair question to be asking. Are you planning on keeping the levy each year? Many people are struggling in this economy, and I think you need to share. You know, I don't say, let's do half and half or something, but there has to be some give and take. Oh, you get $28 back, and we're going to keep 400. Thank you.
Thank you. Sergio Olate. And after will be Nick Caltagnoni. I really butchered that one, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Sergio Olache, and I am from 407 Woodland Hills Road. I have been a resident for 17 years. And I'm here tonight on behalf of my wife Michelle and myself. We both want to address the school board to request that the money from the expired TIF please be returned to the taxpayers. I will not remind you of the oath that you took about the responsibility to the taxpayers because everybody has mentioned that, but I want to offer a different perspective. I have had the opportunity to be educated in different countries, in Mexico, in Germany, and here in the United States. I also had the opportunity to send my kids to England, to public and private schools, as well in the United States. And one thing I've noticed is that the money is not the solution to solve the academic problems that we have. We cannot continue to throw money at this problem. That's not the solution. So that takes me back to the oath that you guys took. I want to please take a look at all the comments that have been brought today. It's extremely important. People here are struggling. Thank goodness I am not struggling, but $400 versus $28. That's a big, big, big decision that you have to make. And it's hard to believe that 7 people have the power to go 28 or 400 for the rest of the community. For some of us, that difference in all the future tax bills that we'll be receiving it's a difference for staying in Batavia or not. Actually, I have been looking in the past to actually move into a different state because not only the state of Illinois is in very bad situation, but also seeing the increases that we are being subject to makes a big, big decision. So for that, I ask you to please make the right decision and give us back our hard-earned money. Thank you.
Nick Caltagione. Was that even close? And Chris Borelli will be after that.
Hi, my name is Nick Caltagirone. I live at 423 Elm Street here in Batavia. Listening to Coach earlier, I was really reminded of how fortunate we are to live in a community that provides so many wonderful opportunities for our kids. There's obviously the sports programs that we all know so much about. There's fine arts programs, music programs, and of course the most important are educational opportunities. I'm also reminded that to sustain those types of opportunities requires extreme amount of resources. And the realities of education in the 21st century with new technologies looming, one-to-one technologies coming up, class sizes increasing, the reality of Common Core, that education is very, very expensive. And I understand as well as anybody, $400 a year is a lot of money. I could certainly use it, and I don't know anyone who couldn't. However, I also realize what $6 million to a school district can do as well for the greater community and for the kids in our community. So for those reasons, I would ask that you approve the levy, keep that money in the district, and use it to further provide those opportunities for our kids. Thank you.
Chris Borelli. And after him will be Amanda Davis.
Hi, my name is Chris Borelli. I live at 2020 County Court. We're here tonight to discuss the allocation of resources. As school administrators, it is your job to efficiently allocate our resources to provide the best educational experience possible for our children. However, as elected and appointed as city officials, it is your job to effectively allocate our resources to optimize quality of life and property values. We're here tonight to tell you that we feel that we are already allocating enough resources to education and are concerned that our high property taxes will discourage good families from wanting to reside in Batavia. Speaking for my family, we would support additional spending if we thought it would make a statistically significant improvement in our children's education. However, countless studies have concluded that there is no link between spending and performance. For example, According to the U.S. Department of Education, National Center for Education Statistics, and the National Assessment of Educational Progress, per-student expenditures have more than doubled since 1970, yet test scores and graduation rates have remained unaffected. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the U.S. spends over $15,000 per student per year, number one in the world, yet test scores are routinely at or below global average. Closer to home, Batavia has struggled to convince my family that increased spending improves the educational experience. In fact, the education portion of our taxes has increased 4% annually since 2005. That's nearly $2,000 more since 2005, while test scores in general have plummeted. In essence, we're paying for a Cadillac, but driving a Chevy. No offense to Chevy owners. A more effective means of improving our children's education may be the degree and form of parental involvement. Several studies have found that parental involvement is a far more efficient means of increasing test scores. For example, a 2001 study conducted by Fan and Chen concluded that there is a practically meaningful relationship between parental involvement and academic achievement. A 2008 University of New Hampshire study concluded that parental involvement has a strong positive effect on student achievement. Given the previously cited empirical evidence, we are asking you to allow us to allocate those resources as we see fit. It is implausible to assume that you can affect students on an individual level as efficiently as their own parents. Since increased spending at the municipal level has failed to improve academic achievement, it makes sense to transfer resources to the family level where they can be deployed much more efficiently. I encourage you to put the taxpayers in charge of their own destinies and allow them to make allocation decisions for our own children. Last year, hardworking Batavians experienced an onerous tax increase as a result of our high school expansion. Many of us came to you and communicated our disapproval of such a large increase, and also the fact that we felt that we were deceived in approving that expansion. The fact that you failed to consider using the additional tax revenue to significantly lower our taxes tells me that you're not listening. Maybe we weren't clear last year. Most of you were appointed by the taxpayers to make decisions in the best interest of the taxpayers. The taxpayers are here tonight telling you what we want. If you fail to carry out the will of the taxpayers, then we will have no other recourse than to exercise our right to vote as taxpayers. In closing, please do not repeat the mistakes of the past with our tax dollars. Our schools have already lost enough good students whose parents were frustrated with our inefficient and ineffective education system. Batavia has already lost enough good families who did not see the value for their tax dollars. If you have any sense of duty to your constituents, you will at the very least delay this vote and present a more realistic budget at a later date. Thank you.
Man, kind of tough to go after such an eloquent speaker. I'm Amanda Davis. I live at 1033 Walnut, and I just wanted to kind of echo and add to what a lot of the people here have said tonight. First, Ms. Gustafson had talked about, things you guys had in your candidate statements or when you were running for election, and I wanted to add a little bit to that from the discussion at the Batavia Public Library this past March or April. To Ms. Locke, she quoted, "I would not be in favor of raising taxes. I want to look to where we could cut something else." And Mr. Stoops said, "Fiscal responsibility needs to be evaluated. It's not so much what we should cut, but what we should not add in the future." He used the athletic field as an example, as not being something he would support. I think you guys have heard a lot about individual stories and, the taxes. Obviously, we all know, we all live here. We all know they've gone up a lot. Personally, I've had the same. I've only lived here for a couple years, so the impact on me has not been quite so dramatic as it has for some of the people living here. But I would ask you guys to reconsider using the TIF money, ask you to give it back to the taxpayers. I think it's a great opportunity for the board to build some trust in the community. I think a lot of people that you're seeing that are here behind me are upset at the tone that the board is just assuming that, yes, we're going to have this money. We're already talking about adding positions and doing all this work on some of the schools. I think, again, this would be a good opportunity to give something back to the community and the taxpayers that have supported you guys. That's it.
Thank you.
Right there.
That concludes our public comment portion of the evening. Any board members wishing to make any comments tonight regarding the levy? Anyone? John, do you want?
Comments?
Just comments?
I have a statement.
Would you like to
Is
wait
this the
until?
time, or do you want me to do it another time?
I'm fine either way. Would you like to speak after we are planning to take the vote, or would you rather speak now? Either one is fine.
I'll speak before the vote, or do you want me to do it now?
No, that's perfectly fine. I would like to take the time to thank everyone who came tonight and have emailed and talked to us about this complicated matter. We've heard from so many members of our community for and against the levy, and as a board member who has sat on the finance committee from the time I was elected, I'd like to take a moment to share how I arrived at my personal opinion regarding the levy. After almost 4 years of cutting major programs, reducing staff and raising class sizes, deferring over $8 million in building repairs and maintenance, and having to do short-term borrowing because we had a shortfall in our fund balances, many of the decisions I made and the votes I placed were based on cutting as much as we had to, all the while knowing that in the school year of 2013-2014, we would have the first income from the outlet mall and would hopefully be able to stop cutting programs and staff. We will receive the first payment from the TIF in June of 2014, and that first payment will be allocated to the 2013-14 school year budget. And knowing that those funds were going to be available, the board authorized major capital work this year, which included things, as we've heard, like resurfacing parking lots, doing chiller and boiler work, new lighting, concrete repair, and other similar projects. We've also added back some teachers to help reduce some of the pressure on class size and are also hoping to avoid short-term borrowing this year. But furthermore, with the uncertainties of state funding, student growth measures required by para, teacher pensions that may be handed back to the districts, and unfunded mandates that keep pouring down on our school district, I strongly believe that offering a small decrease this year while reducing our future uncertainties and looking at further decreasing our debt each year is the best long-term strategy for this district. Also, I have sat here for 3 years regularly hearing from parents about cut programs, class sizes, and their view of the deplorable conditions of some of our buildings. I actually believe this plan is a compromise. Even with the funds from this TIF, we are not looking to go back to programming from 2009 and those staffing levels. I was personally pleased that the proposed levy provided an opportunity to have stable taxes in the foreseeable future while still allowing us to focus on the long-term financial health of this district, and that's why I support the levy as presented. I'd like to move on to close the public hearing and move on, if I could have a motion, and move back to our...
Greg has a
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry, Greg.
I've lived in this town for 52 years and paid taxes for 26 years. I've been a homeowner. So I feel everybody's pain. I've felt the concern. I've gone through I've seen the value of my home go up. We lived through the tanking economy, which was an overinflated housing market, and I understood that was ridiculous what they thought our houses were worth in this town. But I knew something was going to hit, and it did. That wasn't the fault of the school district. You can go on for hours and debate how the housing market tanked. There's opportunities in the future, as Kathy had mentioned, to abate taxes, to look into paying our debt. This is only 50% right now we're gonna be getting. Everybody's thinking there's gonna be a big, come January 1st, it's going to be hit. It won't come till June. Our budget runs from June to June, so we're only talking about first allocation is only half of it. I'm for keeping this, increasing the levy and doing this because in these 52 years I've had a lot of time to reflect on how things have went. The price of something back then, I can't try to expect the price of a gallon of gas to go back to what it was or anything like that. We have to look forward, not backwards. And this is a step forward, but it's like a golden opportunity to get back to where we, or hopefully start working towards the future. And I can't start looking backwards. So I will support it.
Did anyone else want to comment before we move back to our regular item?
Cassie, you want me just to read my comment at this point? All right. Communication and trust is what this new board has been trying to open up with the community in this district. I believe we have taken steps to better at communicating to the stakeholders, teachers, and everyone involved in District 101. This is an area still in progress. Trust. This is a word that has been thrown out by me, explaining how and when I get information from a variety of people to have a clear understanding of issues presented to me, while others tell me that I shouldn't trust the administration but only the stakeholders. But the bottom line is that I will and I need to trust and believe the information that the administration presents to me and other school board members is accurate and has the best solution for our district. When trust becomes a tool, when individuals do not believe or believe there is another agenda, it is a sad day in my book on what our society is coming to. I see too much of this in everyday politics, and it is an evil tool that divides everyone. We, the board, hire the superintendent, and the superintendent hires the staff that will work best for the district and in everyone's best interests. If any administrator or staff member at RJAC is not doing their job or not presenting factual information, then they would need to be dealt with. I have stated before that my best interest in considering all information provided me is for the success of this district, and I will do everything in my capacity to make sure we stay the course and work with what we have. My family moved to Batavia over 15 years ago, mostly because of the school system. At the time we moved in, our taxes were higher than Geneva and St. Charles. But we moved here because we wanted to make sure our child would benefit from the system. We were okay with the taxes because my wife and I understand the value of a good education. With that said, I was in favor of having this venue tonight moved to another location to accommodate a larger crowd based on the emails we received about the TIF and the tax levy. However, due to legal and binding rules on setting up this meeting, it was too late to get this done, and it could have caused other issues. I was not in favor of doing anything illegal. I also was in favor of holding a special workshop on the tax levy. There has been a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about the TIF, and I have seen on some emails about the tax levy that taxes are going up at an increase up to $400. However, not all emails had incorrect information. Some were just asking for money back. Yes, I want lower taxes, but I must be given all the correct information, facts first, and it needs to be understood. I asked many questions, and I was in discussion with individual board members and meetings with the administration, where I believe they also had the same opportunity. We didn't break any Open Meetings Act. It was determined by the board president and superintendent with feedback from the board members and administration here at RJ that we would stay the course and have the tax levy meeting before the regular board meeting on this date. One of my concerns, along with another board member I talked with, was that we would be a punching bag from a number of stakeholders that have put a push on for getting this TIF money back. But on the other hand, I had and was hearing from other stakeholders to keep programs and don't make any cuts. So I had asked the administration, along with another board member, to present this in a way that would detail what this is all about and what is actually happening with the TIF and the tax levy again, which was presented tonight at other meetings and tonight. I also wanted to make sure if we gave TIF money back, what cause and effect that would have, what type of cuts in class sizes, changes in the schools. But again, I needed to trust the administration to get me and the other board members the details, factual information, and what this means to the taxpayers of Batavia District 101 and our programs. The reason I was in favor of holding a special meeting was not to bow to the pressure of all the vocal comments from the emails that in some cases were threatening in tone and had misinformation about what was happening. I have always maintained that I wanted to hear all sides and get all the correct information and understand the effects so others can hear that also. However, it is hard to get a true picture from some emails when only parts of the information are presented from the stakeholders that weren't at times factual and or misleading. So again, I needed to trust the administration to give me the history and the true facts of what was happened going back 4 to 5 years, which led up to this point of discussion.
I have said and I will always say I am in favor of keeping what we have at the present time, and I am not in favor of making any major cuts at this time after what previous boards had to do. I believe we are trying to recoup what was lost and bring programs and class sizes back to normal. We still have some issues at some schools with class sizes and class space for some specific programs that don't have a designated classroom, but remember, we haven't cut those programs. If we were to give them some of this money back and ask or don't ask for the 1.7 tax levy, then we would have a deficit, which would result in making cuts to staff and programs with larger classes. That is not acceptable to me. I have heard from other stakeholders that they understand the struggles we are facing and appreciate the work we are doing, and that they want to keep programs and not start cutting again while reducing the taxes for the stakeholders for this district. Even if it's a minimal decrease, it is a decrease. There is always a price with education, and unfortunately, some of these issues should be taken up with your legislators in Springfield. They have caused some of these problems with mandates without funding and new evaluation plans that need other administrators to do these jobs. We have also dodged a major bullet with the pension reform with regards that districts would be in charge of putting some money into the pension. Some districts putting money back into the pension, and I'm glad that didn't happen. That would really put districts in trouble, including Batavia. I do take exception to some individuals generalizing me. How you do not know me, you do not know how I process, analyze things, and how I come up with my decisions. The first is with the trust again. I mean what I say and say what I mean. When I ran for this office, I stated I would get all the information to make a sound decision, and if I didn't know all the answers, I would need to ask many questions until I could make a sound decision. I have up to this point and will continue to ask many questions. Someone told me about an article that was written in the Kane County Chronicle online last month. Well, I said I never saw it. I don't Twitter, Facebook, blog, read things on the newspaper except for the Free Press because I'm from Michigan. But I do read the Tribune and the Herald, the hard copy. But they encouraged me to read this article online and make sure I see the comment below. So I looked it up, and I'm not doing that again. So I looked it up, and an individual made an assumption from my comments about the trust at the finance meeting last month, and I quote Bob McQuillan. The school board members do not take an oath to trust the administration. They take an oath to be good stewards of the district assets while providing a quality education. End quote. I agree and disagree with some of this, especially the trust part. When I vote for board members, I trust they have the best interests of the students and taxpayers in order to produce a quality school district to help meet the needs of the students and stakeholders. But they must get all the factual information from all parties, including administrators, to make their best judgment on any issue they need to vote on. Second, another person has basically said that the board is putting on a propaganda push with the athletic field. Vision, idea, or starting point. Already being a done deal. This is not true, as I will clarify later. And the person indicated that board members were meeting with stakeholders for coffees and conversations just to pat stakeholders on their heads to let them hear what they wanted to hear. That again is not true. When I have met for coffees, I was always telling the truth and what my take was on issues. I do not speak for anyone else on the board, and they do not speak for me. No money from this tax levy is going towards the athletic field. What we approved last month on baseball fields were donations from parties that care and wanted to help pay for a long overdue fix of a poor field and backstop for safety. And any future items for the athletic field that is a vision must go through the board on a vote. So let's keep the facts accurate and to the point. This has nothing to do with the athletic field. Let's also be respectful, as I have said. It is okay to agree to disagree, but let's do it in a fair and respectful dialogue. Finally, I want to thank all the individuals that have emailed us, came out tonight and earlier today at the finance meeting, talking to us on the streets, at games, in the stores, etc., for wanting us to return money back to taxpayers and for other in keeping programs that we have. And I'm just going to change my wording here for just a second, that we had basically made an agreement that the board president was going to answer basically all the emails, so everything was consistent. So I just wanted, I did read every single one. Thank you for your thoughts. I want to thank all of the individuals here at RJAC for helping with any of the information that has been provided to all the board members and getting this day ready. I want to give a special thanks to Lisa, Dr. Hitchens, and Chris, Dr. Mon, for all their work behind the scenes to answer all my questions and other board members' questions, having meetings with us and working on this presentation today. I want to thank all my fellow board members for having patience with me, with my requests, and a special thank you to our President, Kathy Dremel, for responding to all my emails, or responding to all the emails from stakeholders, letting me rant, ask many questions, meeting with me, and most importantly, listening to me. This is a process some of us are still learning, and I am learning each day on the job, and will do what I believe is in the best interest for the kids and stakeholders in the Batavia School District as a parent, a taxpayer, and a board member. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments?
I just have to clarify something that has been out since it started, and it bothers me to no end, that we have no power to take that money from the outlet mall and turn around and write checks to the taxpayers. We can't, just like we can't take money, I can't take my tax money and turn around and pay it to Jason. We can't take the outlet money, which is a taxable entity, and turn around and give it to the taxpayers of Batavia. What we would have to do is take that money and turn around and abate tax money that you paid. It is not, we're not a bank. We can't turn around and give you that $6 million. And that's how it's been painted to a lot of people out there. I know there are people out there who understand this. I know that it's not, most of you who are in this room probably understand it. But it's out there that we have the ability to go out there and take $6 million and pass it out to everybody in Batavia. We do not have that authority. That is not in our fiduciary obligations or in our fiduciary powers. I just need us, the lawyer, to clarify that we do not have powers to do that. What we would have to do is turn around and give money that you paid in your taxes. So it wouldn't be the same amount of money for everybody.
However the accounting works, we're fine with it.
Just want to clarify, it wouldn't be $400 for everybody, because everybody's house is worth a different amount of money. So it just, there's a lot of information out there that isn't necessarily true.
No, we can't be talking. Okay, we can't talk. Thank you. Go ahead, Sam.
I would like to start by saying that I have read each and every email, as I always do, that was sent to the board. Many of the emails were in opposition to the levy, but some were in support of it. I was also approached by many neighbors and parents personally supporting the levy increase. Just because you scream the loudest does not make you in the majority. Since taking my oath of office back in May, there have been several controversial issues to come before this board. I would urge all stakeholders to take responsibility for their own knowledge and information that they receive. Do not rely on others, be it the newspapers, internet, or other outside sources. Do your own research. There are always more issues at stake than what are generally reported on in the newspaper or on the internet. I take great offense when I hear the statement, the board will just rubber stamp whatever the administration wants. As a board member, we put in many hours per week reading hundreds of pages of material to prepare for a board meeting, committee meeting, understanding the issues at hand, preparing for a vote, many things like that. This has never been more true than for this issue tonight. Almost everyone who addressed the board tonight, myself or before, myself included, begins their comments with, we, I, my family, has moved to Batavia because of the schools. We heard it here tonight. However, beginning in the 2009-10 school year, many cuts were made, and this has continued for years. We are all familiar with many of the program cuts. Kathy made mention of it. Full-day kindergarten, Spanish at the elementary level, building trades too. Do not forget what the BEA has done for us too in the past. There are many other budgetary cuts that were made also. class size being the most important to me, and Rose even mentioned that. And that's what I'm taking into consideration tonight. Class sizes have silently been creeping up each year. Also, many capital projects were put on hold for years. Some projects can be delayed for only so long until safety becomes an issue. Many of the emails received stated that we should learn to live within our means. There are many ways that we, as a new board, are doing just that. But please realize that many things are out of our control. Special education and transportation costs are just two of these areas. As many of you have pointed out, cost of living increases are a fact of life. We must take this opportunity now. It is the best solution for everyone. Taxpayers, parents, teachers, but most importantly, the students of Batavia Public Schools. And finally, I would like to take the opportunity to thank some people who have been very helpful over this past month. Dr. Hitchens, who has acted in an extremely professional manner, guiding the board through this difficult process. Kathy, you have been incredible throughout this whole procedure. She tirelessly has answered emails, questions, and is the glue that has held this board together, I think. My fellow board members that have devoted hours upon hours to this one single issue. I think we all know more about tax levies than we ever really wanted to know. Also Raquel, who's not here tonight, but for her help in getting the information out there to the public. And lastly, to Dr. Mon. He was always there to answer my questions, because now when you think taxes, Tony, you really will take a seat, right? So, thank you for all your help in really making this a clear understanding issue. Thank you.
Does anyone have any
That's
final
it.
comments? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing and return to our regular board meeting.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Gasper. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the first item on our regular meeting after our resumption is any public comments not related to the levy. We have Carl Dinwiddie. Yes, Mr. Dinwiddie. After him will be Ellison.
Chair, I thought you were going to take a bathroom break. But,
Good evening.
my name is Carl Dinwiddie. I live at 1156 Pine Street. And as always, I want to thank the board members for all their time and effort they put in to this job. I read the board books just like you do and other things. I want you to do one thing for me. You need to get Coach Perone more fired up and more passionate about the football program. I've actually heard the saying, any great accomplishment always starts with love and passion, and he exemplifies it, so good for him. I also heard the kids talk about, the kids, I can call them kids, about working at the food pantry, the youth football, and their academics. The one thing I didn't hear him mention, at the last city council meeting, there was the appeal for the toy drive in Batavia where they hand out toys like for 600 or 800 kids in Batavia, believe it or not. And in that presentation, they had photos of a big mess of a room with toys. How are they ever going to get this organized for all these kids? And the next thing, I see pictures of 25, 30, 40 Batavia football players coming in and spending hours. And then the after shot, they were all set for the kids to come. And football is great, but that almost means more to me than that trophy down there. I was very impressed. My subject tonight has to do with next year's budget. I think the process is going to start May 2014. I've commented about the budget documents 2 years in a row now. I've read all the budgets, all the certified financial reports, audits, all the checks by account, which is close to $2 million a month without even salaries and debt service, and all the credit card usage, which is about $1 million a year. I've looked at all those numbers and I'm still, what's best said in a little short article over the weekend. A school district's residents should be allowed to weigh in on what the district can live without, much like a business suffering through a difficult time would work with those within its operation to make tough choices. What are the options? Is there another way? What can be done to cut costs? These are questions school boards should be asking and residents should be partners in the process. Significantly raising taxes on an annual basis isn't a good long-term solution. I think I've listened to John and some other, you want to be informed and all. I want to be informed, but with everything I've read, the budget documents are still lacking, and I've told you that before. I would like to see, when you put out the budget, not just accounts and numbers, but also, I asked last year, but it didn't work out, if there's increases, if there's decreases, some kind of narrative discussion and analysis of why are we increasing? What's the cost benefit of
Mr. Denton, you were
increasing?
over 3 minutes. Can you summarize for us?
Well, anyway, no, that's all I had to say. I've worked for budgets for 25 years, and you need to do a better job of getting the analysis and information out. So just as the article says, the citizens can also see where you're going and why you're going that way.
Thank you.
And give you input.
This is Ellen Knapp. You can follow along.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't do a bigger type, though?
Yeah. What?
You couldn't do a bigger type?
Hopefully it's 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Fiscal responsibility is clearly an important topic to this community, and I believe that it's important to our school board as well. There are many ways to be fiscally prudent and to measure fiscal responsibility. To me, what is important is a quality education for our children. If the children of Batavia aren't receiving a quality education, then my tax dollars and registration fees are not being well spent. But how does BPS 101 measure a quality education? For the elementary schools, the key measurement is the results from the students' MAPS tests. For example, MAP tests are taken by elementary students 3 times a year. At least 2 goals in each elementary SIP, school improvement plan, must be related to the reading map and the math map results. Elementary principals with multi-year contracts had appendices added at the October 22, 2013 board meeting relating to the percentage of students meeting MAP growth projections for math and reading. Elementary teachers work with students to improve their academics based upon that student's MAP score. Even elementary class size is calculated based on how many teachers are teaching the MAP test subjects of reading and math. Meeting MAP growth projections in reading and math are a key measurement in the elementary schools in Batavia. It's not ISATs. ISAT information is not given to school districts in a timely manner, and the test hasn't completely aligned with Common Core standards like MAP. Plus, ISATs are going away. I have submitted several FOIAs over this school year relating to MAP tests. All but one was denied, and the one that wasn't denied, I was given incomplete information. I am looking forward to the MAP presentation today, and I'm hoping some of my questions are answered, such as: percentage of students meeting MAP growth projections for math and reading are available at the school level. That is evident in Appendix A in every elementary principal's multi-year contract. Is this same data available by grade and by individual class at the elementary level? What are the actual percentages of students meeting MAP growth projections for math and reading for each elementary school? I have this information for HC Storm, but don't have this information for the other elementary schools. If I can see elementary school comparisons for ISATs, then why can't I see it or get it for MAP? My child is taking the winter MAP test the first week he comes back from holiday break. How soon can the board and the public have a similar presentation on these test results? For reference, HC Storm posted the results of the MAP tests taken in September 2013 on its Twitter account on October 3rd, 2013. In order to define success, measurements must be used. BPS 101 is using MAP as a key measurement of academic success in the elementary schools. Why else would elementary students be taking this test 3 times a year and principal contracts be based in part on these tests? It is my hope that those who pay taxes and registration fees have the same timely access to this math information. Thank you.
Exactly 2 minutes. Thank you. Now? Thank you. Okay, then we're going to move on to our partners in education. Is Joe Farcar here tonight? I don't think I saw him. All right, then Mr. Millay, Tony Millay, could you come up and join us at the table, please?
Thank you.
Hi, Tony.
Just a few comments tonight. First of all, I'll start with the tax levy. You know, we do understand the concerns shared by some of the taxpayers here in Batavia. In fact, the majority of the 443 teachers are taxpayers in Batavia. However, it would not be fiscally responsible to not collect as much revenue as possible from the global customers from around the world that come to our district and spend money. We have an opportunity to have the global economy help us pay for our schools. We need to tap into that. Therefore, we support the levy as presented, especially since it already is producing a tax savings like no other district around. We are exceptional. The next thing I would like to say, our brothers and sisters in BESPA, that's the Batavia Education Support Professionals Association, there's a mouthful. That's the paras in the classroom, helping teachers, the secretaries, custodians, hall monitors, are a vital part of our district, and I'm very proud of their efforts to expand their membership, and I wish them all the best. The last thing, which you know I couldn't leave without mentioning, the pension reform that happened just a couple of weeks ago, which we believe is unfair, but more importantly, unconstitutional. And actually, it appears to be a political game. And chances are, in another year after the courts process this, it's going to end up, we're going to be back at square one in worse position. We have worked with other associations and created a solution, Senate Bill 2404, which was passed by the Senate, but the Speaker of the House refused to let the House vote on that because he knew it would have passed. It was a fair approach where we were contributing and willing to help out, but their political games prevent that from happening. We have a revenue problem in this state. There's a Better Illinois Fair Tax campaign would help address this by asking those who have benefited most in our system to pay their fair share while reducing the tax burden on the middle class. This is an opportunity for those that are struggling to be active in reducing what they have to pay in taxes for this state. That is the appropriate avenue that I believe would make Illinois a better state. So please sign the petition. You can find it on abetterillinois.org. And everyone have a very nice holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, the only action item we have tonight is action on the 2013 tax levy. I would entertain a motion to accept the levy as presented in the levy hearing presentation. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Stoops. Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. We talked so much earlier, I forgot we might want to talk again. Do we have any items for discussion? Any final questions anyone wanted to ask or answer? I know we had a lengthy discussion at the Finance Committee meeting, but we can revisit any of those topics right now if you'd care to. Okay. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Estrada.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Remmel.
Yes. Motion passes. Next, we'd like to move on to our consent agenda. Tony and Lacey, would you care to read the consent agenda?
I'd be happy to. The consent agenda this evening includes the minutes from the past month, the meetings of the board. It includes action for the board on personnel, which includes employment, resignation, and leaves of absence. It also includes routine financial items, and I'd like to point out a correction. There is an error in the consent agenda under 831. The payrolls for the month of November, or actually the payroll for November 30th should read, instead of that number listed there, it should read $2,531,158.63.
I'm sorry, what was it?
The number is $2,531,158.63.
Okay.
So in sum, all the routine financial items total over $6 million. Item 8.4 includes the treasurer's reports for the month of November. The item 8.5 includes donations from a number of different sources, which include the PTO at Alice Gustafson School and Wells Fargo Foundation and anonymous donors. FOIA requests for the previous month, an overnight trip at BHS, BHS textbook adoption, some policy adoptions, the natural gas contract for the Illinois Gas Cooperative, and a contract with Harif Jones for caps and gowns at BHS. Those are all the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Inglesi. Was there anything anyone wanted removed from the consent agenda? I apologize, I didn't ask you that first.
To do what?
Absolutely, you can comment. I just want to make sure nobody wanted anything pulled off so we could vote on it separately.
No, I just want to thank Pat, oh, there you are back there, for the work. He made presentations at the last two finance committee meetings regarding the IGC and the work that they do, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to work to continue to save dollars to the district and purchase gas in a kind of a long-term basis. We've got people that have their finger on the pulse of the market that will help us, continue to work to save dollars with the energy conservation programs that we have and all that. Just wanted to publicly thank him for all the work he and his staff do to continue to keep our costs. If I remember right, I can't remember the year we went back to that you threw. We've actually not had to increase our amount of gas used over the last number of years, or because all the savings that we've found throughout the district. So we've been able to keep those dollars in check, and those expenses in check. So thanks again.
I just have a couple.
Yeah, go for it.
The donations for the, from AGS PTO for the Mimios, I think that's a great.
Being AGS, correct?
Thank you.
Well, I think it's great that they can help out with the technology in that format, and as long as, it's going through our technology to make sure everything lines up, and I know it is. So I think that's great for the Gustafson PTO. One thing I brought up at policy meeting was when we have new books or something, I did say I think it would be nice to have, if possible, a second edition or a second copy of that book here at RJAC, so people could come here instead of going to the separate schools or whatever. And I know it could be a cost, which I know
But our administrators agreed to ask for it,
but to
correct?
ask for it, it doesn't hurt to see if it's something that's we think or most likely we're going to buy. They should be able to help us on that. On the policy adoption on the one, and maybe Lisa, on the e-cigarette one, will we be able to put some signs up maybe for at least a half a year or a year, just to make sure that once that gets approved that people know that? Because I know it's a big thing out now in the public and cities and that about the e-cigarettes, and I just want to make sure people are going to be aware that that's not going to be allowed. So
Yeah,
I know we've talked about it, but I just want to make sure there might be something up there that's included.
That's a good idea, and that would help our staff who's trying to enforce that.
And those are, everything else has been answered, so those are, just wanted to bring those up again. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions, comments, thoughts on the consent agenda?
I had a question real quick. Do we have to approve the correction by verbal vote, or is that just stated for the record?
That's just for the record, correct?
And it's a significant change, obviously, from a typo.
The consent agenda that was read to you was
Okay.
accurate, so.
Okay. Just wanted to make
And
sure.
it will be reflected in the minutes that the board approved.
With the verbal change on it, okay.
Okay, this is really nitpicky. but
Yeah.
On the winter guard trip,
Yeah.
on page, let's see, 58, it talks about a roller coaster during, about physics lesson. There's, it's like they cut and pasted.
and they.
Did you see that?
I was like, because I was trying to figure out what the guard was, and then
I know.
the flags.
Yeah.
If you go to like page
Okay.
58.
Such as an odd quirky.
It's like.
So we're going to quiz them about that physics lesson when they come
Well,
back from their
it's
winter
not
guard
like-
trip?
For those of people that doubted that you read the board book.
Exactly, I read the board
Great,
book, and-
thank you, Mrs. Black.
But, so, I mean, I don't want to approve it and then have them expecting the physics lesson or something. Do you know what I mean?
Noted, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
okay, so could we please
But
note
then,
that
on page
there's
52, sorry
an
to
oddity
jump back,
in there?
it talks about 4 chaperones, but then on page 60, it talks about 3 chaperones. I don't know what the rule is, I don't want to be,
We'll make sure that they have the proper ratio before they go. I'll clarify that.
okay. That's all, I'm just,
Anything else?
yes, I'm going to be John tonight. Sorry, John. Mr. Brown, are you familiar with the Batavia Youth Baseball Agreement?
Yes.
You handle that?
Yes.
Okay. In the past, and this is just more a parent at AGS speaking than a board member, but there have been some complaints about the grass cutting and upkeeping. Upkeeping, is that?
Upkeep.
It's getting late already. Upkeep around the backstop and the diamond. Is there a schedule they keep? Routine, mowing? Do you know what I mean?
You want to take that one?
Melanie.
Always
Melanie
been,
knows?
it's always been the park district. The BYB,
Well-
they're changing it.
They're changing it.
So they're working
Okay.
through that.
Because
They're
I
gonna-
looked on this and now BYB is in charge of it, right? Okay.
Because
so-
they haven't been able to control it very much.
So we should see better grass upkeeping.
That's the goal.
Upkeep. Okay, there we go. Upkeep.
Okay, duly noted.
There we go. Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the correction of the payroll amount, with the verification that we will get the correct number of chaperones for the trip, and a correction of the no physics lessons, we're assuming, if that's appropriate. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Stoops. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Pistato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. Dr. Muker, oh, you've moved. Dr. Muker
It was kind of a gauntlet, so.
is going to present on student growth and achievement tonight. Oh, and Mrs. Kelly Cronin, thank you for joining us. I know one's names written.
Surprise
down
guest.
tonight, I'm sorry. I kind of thought you were definitely through here.
I know you've been doing a lot of listening tonight, and I know that that's not an easy thing to do, so I appreciate you listening to the third of 3 presentations on our student achievement data. And this student achievement data is really focused on growth. And to me, this is a very important discussion because that's what our mission statement is, always learning, always growing. And that's really our focus. In the past 2 presentations, we've talked about really benchmark, or what we call attainment data. And attainment data is what we've traditionally used in the past. We set a benchmark for our kids, and we look to see what number of our students, or what % of our students met that benchmark. And while that information is useful, it does rank and sort kids, and it doesn't account for their starting place. So if a student starts very low in terms of their academic progress, to make it over that benchmark, just like every kid, they have to grow exponentially. So when we talk about growth, to me this is a great conversation to have, because this is what we're all about, is taking kids from where they're at to where they need to go, and setting some growth benchmarks for our students. We're going to focus on a couple of different pieces of information tonight in terms of growth, and I do have to say that this is complicated. We're still learning about this. Growth has been a conversation for the past couple of years in terms of moving away from attainment data into more growth. And Kelly's going to start that conversation by talking a little bit about ISAT data, but before she does that, I want to talk about why this conversation.
And the conversation around growth really focuses on 3 areas of improvement. Not only do we look at growth data to find out where the district can improve, where do we need to target curriculum improvements or systematic changes or additional supports, but we can also take a look at the school level. And Mrs. Knaus talked about all of our school improvement plans being based around growth data. I think that's a great conversation. And actually at each of our grade levels, they've written SMART goals around improving student growth as well. So it's a big part of our school improvement planning process. The really exciting piece for me is when we start to talk to students about their own growth. So part of the MAP test is that it will let us know, on average, how many points that student should grow over the course of the year. And we're starting to have conversations with students about their own growth, which is great because students then take ownership over that learning process, which is where that should be rooted. So it helps students as well set some of those growth targets.
Brad, can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
When you say you talk to the students, how, are you going all the way down to first grade? And talk, or is there, or, you know, for the understanding part, that's what I'm just trying to get at.
Right, so at the kindergarten level, it's going to obviously look very different. So at the high school level and middle school level, for the past couple of years, they've worked on goal-setting sheets. Their counselors come in, they talk to them about where their EPAS data has been, where they should be ending up. That looks very different in a kindergarten classroom. So at a kindergarten classroom, you can talk about learning, you can set some class goals, you make it more of a fun contest type thing.
Okay.
So you're starting them on that progress. It's not, you know, if you don't get this growth target, you're not going to U of I. So it's not evolved that far yet. So we'll see. No. So Kelly's going to talk about ISAT. And the one thing that we want to mention with the ISAT is I've talked to you in the past 2 presentations about the ISAT test. The ISAT is going away. It will be replaced by the PARC assessment. And the PARC assessment is a very different type of assessment. We're starting to see some Common Core aligned aspects to the ISAT test, but it's not fully aligned to the PARC assessment or the Common Core. But one of the things that the state of Illinois has done is they've adopted a value table. This is available on the school report card, and we just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about that if people are looking at our school report card, because this is something new and different.
When's the ISAT going away?
Next year.
2014-15 school year.
So this will be the last year they take it, right?
That's
Yes.
what they say.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I know. It's what they say.
Going based on
Can
yes,
change,
what
but
they say.
this should be the last year that they take it, yeah, okay.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is actually reported on now on the new state report card. So this is a growth value table for Batavia based on ISAT growth. So AYP, or annual yearly progress, is based on the percentage of students that meet that benchmark score. This adds a greater context to looking at student data and growth between 2 years. So this is a new thing, as Brad mentioned before, that the state did to not just evaluate that one point in time, but to look at a student's growth between 2 years. So the 2 years that this is comparing is last year's 2012 and the 2013 scores. Our kiddos are in the green there, and the state, I'm not sure if that's black or if it's a darker green color, but those numbers don't represent percentages, but they are representative of the growth value. I'll explain that a little further in the next couple slides, but as you can see in both reading and math, our students currently are overall exceeding the state's growth average for students in grades 3 through 8. All right, this next slide looks very confusing. It's not as confusing as it looks. You're familiar with the performance levels that ISAT has been based on. We even use those same levels for math. So academic warning, below standards, meet standards, exceed standards. The state, for this value table, broke each of those levels into subcategories to give a more accurate picture of student growth. So along the left-hand side, running up and down there, is the 2012 data, and along the top is the 2013 data, where 2 scores
intersect, where you get that cell that intersects, that would represent a pocket of students who last year, if you look at 3A to 3A, for instance, there's a number in there, 236. So that represents, for reading in Batavia, 236 students were meeting state standards last year and continued to score at that meeting state standards for the 2013 year. All the students who are in those that gray diagonal bar there, those students maintained that same level of proficiency on the ISAT. The green boxes, the green cells, represent growth. So in some cases it was a level, some cases it was 2 levels. The pink cells represent students who had negative growth, or in other words, went down a level or 2.
What's 1A and 1B and 2A?
That's, the state broke each proficiency level into subcategories. I couldn't tell you the exact number that made it the difference between a 1A and 1B. So those numbers in there represent students in our district.
So it's important, I think most parents, when they get that ISAT report in the fall, when we send that home, they look to see on that front page, my student met standards, which is a metric that we've used for many, many years in the state of Illinois. So parents get that back, but they don't really know, is that good? Meet sounds good, but is it better than they were last year? So what the state has done for their accountability measures from NCLB is they said, how do we start to measure growth with our tests? So away from attainment, that benchmark, to growth. And how can we do that? There are lots of different options that the state could have chosen. They chose to use a value table. So there's about 6 different types of growth measures. From simple growth, I started at a 236 and I ended at a 237. I grew 1 point. To value tables, which are a more complicated way of looking at growth. So behind each of these is a point value for those students growing. So in terms of what a parent would probably take a look at when they look at the Illinois school report card on the site was, I know that my kid was meets. So they would be in one of these 2 categories. And again, the state has not revealed how they have split those 2 categories to us. So they would be in one of these 2 categories in 2012. In 2013, let's say my kid is still in meets. They may have moved from level A to level B. And 161 of our students did just that. They moved from level A to level B, where these 2 intersect, and there's a green or a plus point value behind that cell. And that's what they're using to calculate growth. To us, this is a very new thing. It's something that is rather confusing. We think it's a good change in our discussion, but it's not something that's readily accessible to the general public or even to people who work in this field.
So is it possible that a student can have acceptable growth and be in that box of 236 students? So they're meeting standards, they could still have growth in that, even though they didn't change
There might be
categories?
some growth, yes,
Okay.
within that.
Okay, so based on that, how many students did not meet standards?
A
We were
number.
looking at 3A, 3B, so
And again, it's about which students didn't grow. So
Right.
what
So
we're
who didn't
looking
grow?
at from a
112
district
or-
level,
If
Well,
you look at all of the
all of the
pink
pink.
boxes where there
Okay.
are numbers, those numbers represent students who
Did not grow.
they actually had negative growth.
So are the numbers in the pink box, pink, green, whatever
Right, mhm.
boxes, are those numbers representative of students?
Yes.
Is that a
Yes.
percentage?
No, those are actual
Students.
students.
Student numbers,
Mhm.
so it's 1 student, 3 students, 18
You-
students,
you got it.
140.
Yes.
oh, so that's the total. It would
That's
be
the total number
of
of student in that cell.
So there's 111 that exceeded standards, but they just didn't exceed them as much as they did the year before?
Correct.
That's
You got
a little bit more.
it. You got it.
Okay.
So
And
that,
people
the
in
slide
the
that,
boxes.
the previous slide that showed that 10, can you go back to that? 107 and 109, that's an average.
Oh, you got a
So as Brad said before, those cells, behind all those cells are values. We can't see them, but they're there,
Right.
trust me. There's values, they averaged all of the values of students who had growth
Into that number.
and that's divided by the number of
Right.
students who took it.
I get that.
And that's the,
And they did it to
that's the score.
normalize so we can start doing some comparisons across.
You got it, yes.
And really, if you look at it, this is a great change in our conversation, rather from meets to meets, okay? There's nothing to really learn there, is which students are growing at what rate? Do we have some students that are going from below standards to meets? Then we can look to see, what are we doing? What interventions do we have for those students that are being successful? So it really changes the conversation from this benchmark to growth and getting all kids to grow. And right now, you can see those students in pink are not growing. So this is where we can use this information for district and school improvement.
But you're still figuring out how to use all this, what it all means. It's a process of.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. But there could be growth.
Minimal growth within
There
that sum.
there
Within
could
a
be minimum.
subcategory.
That's right, there
Sure.
could be growth.
Mhm.
If someone was in an academic warning, and there's still an academic, there still could be growth.
But they just
Right.
don't.
I know, but I'm
they
just
don't
saying,
get out of
like,
it.
that's, but I think the perception
They
out
do
there is that
still,
we gotta,
they do still receive a value.
okay.
This is
Um,
like the standards.
they do, so even maintaining your same level, provided it's meets, you receive a value.
I like to look
receive a
at
value.
growth as just growth.
Right.
You know, if someone is
Yeah.
low, I mean, and they are growing from it, that's a benefit. I mean, something's helping, or something that we're doing is helping them. It could be maybe, it could be special ed student, it could be a ESL student, it could be a regular student, whatever. But any type of growth to me is a plus.
Yes.
You know, I don't wanna go the opposite way. And I also gotta be careful that some people just wanna see that big jump. Because that's not always necessarily to me, possibly a good thing.
What
I-
grade
Kind
is
of goes to what your
This is
previous
third through eighth.
presentation, I think
This
I
is
jumped the
students
gun
who
on
take
it.
ISAT.
I know.
You said,
Oh,
patient,
this
you'll
is
see this
like
one.
an average of all of them.
I think
Because
personal
I'm like,
growth,
that doesn't add up to 6,000 kids.
No. So our primary students and our high school students, they don't take the ISAT, so they're not captured in this chart.
so personal growth is something that I think would be something we're more concerned with, more proud of than kind of generic ISAT tests where you put a benchmark and if you don't hit it there. It's more individualized, you know, than some, kind of, like I said, a generic test. You don't, this may show, I'm going back to grades, sorry about that, but I'm old school. If a C student becomes a B student, that growth is more, I think, more important and should be more celebrated than if an A student gets an A plus. I mean, I'm just kind of using a
Unless you're
relative
a
reference.
student, but.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, in essence, or say a student that's struggling, say D and becomes a B student, that growth is tremendous. But yet, maybe that bar was, he just missed the bar. But didn't we do our job? Didn't that student do their job to increase their, growth? That's the stuff that I look at. Right.
And that is,
Yeah, I am.
that is one of the
This
measurements.
is what I've been waiting for over these 3 presentations. This is what
That is one of the growth measurements that the state could have chosen, which is called value added. So what value is the system adding to that? They decided not to use the value added growth model, but to use the value table.
Okay.
Yes, team?
Can you did the number on in the table there, 151, right in the middle?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Sure, those kids in
Right.
2012, so a
Okay.
couple of years ago, they were in below standards, but they were at the upper end of below standards, the 2B. Now, a parent would never know that their kid was in quadrant 2B. They would just get the report that says below standards. But according to their raw score, they would be in 2B. In the next year's testing, they remained in that same category. As John said, they could have grown a little bit, which would be great, but they still remained within that quadrant. One of the negative aspects of value tables is it's all about drawing lines again. So we talked about attainment. Value tables do the same thing. It doesn't look at kids individually. It says, here's a line, can you get over it into the next grid? Here's a line, can you get over it into the next grid? Those 151 kids didn't make it over the threshold. So the state said they didn't grow.
So we actually, the dark gray into the pink, it reflects negatively on where we
Yes.
are wanting to be
Yes.
according to the state.
We would want to push the kids, and we'll talk more about this as we do some of our own
Unless
charts.
they were in the exceeds, then
Yeah.
it didn't reflect negatively. It actually still had a positive
Okay.
score.
All right, with the way they readjusted the scoring, did that push more?
What's that, why? Did you, I'm sorry.
They readjusted the ISAT scoring, so did that push more people to showing no growth?
Did they recalculate the scores in 2012? I don't know the answer to that.
They recalculated them for 2013.
So
So
that
the
it wouldn't-
2012
didn't
score.
push everybody, okay.
Right.
So they would be
Right.
appropriately compared.
Did they?
Yeah, they use new
They
The new-
redid the cut scores
they
for
redid,
2012.
Right.
thing backwards.
So are there, and this might be a redundant statement, so students in 1A to 2B, those are the students that we're trying to capture more targeted growth for them to show more improvement. Are there programs that are initiated to be put in place then to individualize that student's growth?
With this measurement, no. So we don't make a lot of programming decisions based for individual kids based on ISAT data because it lags so far behind. We use other metrics, and I'll talk about MAP results, to craft interventions for kids to give them that more personalized learning environment. But this is not timely enough, so it's not really easy for us to make a lot of decisions about individual kid progress based on it. It really gives a more holistic approach to growth. You can see similar, and again, the math performance, it's the same concept, but again, it's a new concept that the state is experimenting with. Our only reason for bringing this is that we will continue to study this. With the test changing so dramatically, we don't know what long-term value we will have in looking and studying this, but it will be something that we look into. But we have other measures, but we wanted to touch on it because people will see this on the school report card. Another growth measure that we take a look at is our EPASS data. And EPASS is the Educational Planning and Assessment Suite that ACT offers. And you would know this by probably the test name. So this is the Explore test, this is the Plan test, and this is the ACT test. And prior to 2010, you can see on our chart, we gave our 8th graders the Explore test, our 10th graders the Plan test, and our 11th graders took the state mandated ACT tests. And we really felt at that time that we needed to shift the conversation towards more growth and getting more kids to take these assessments so we could start to track their growth over time. And you can see over the past couple of years we've made tweaks to who takes what tests. Part of it is our desire to shift that conversation towards growth and to give kids more practice at this type of testing. The other is the state has mandated certain things and has a financial carrot if we do some of this testing. So this year we've made some changes to our testing protocols because the state said that they would pay for the test. They're rather expensive, so we've conformed to the test that they want to give at a particular grade level. So for instance, the Explore test, which we've given for a long time to our 8th grade students, the state will only pay for that if you give it to 9th graders. So we don't think, I don't think,
That's why we did the shift.
yeah, I don't think it's the best test for 9th graders, but it's an important assessment, important practice for our students, so we've done that and moved those tests to different grade levels.
We no longer give it to 6th graders?
No, and it's because we were paying for that test and it's very costly, and we were seeing some parent concern too quickly over the results of that test. It was meant to get the conversation started, and some people jumped
Wasn't
in.
it scored wrong too that year?
We messed up the scores once, but we corrected it because we were scoring it ourselves.
What was
Save
the,
money.
what's the benefit of going from the mock ACT for grade 10 and 11, 12 to the plan test in 13, 14?
To me, there's not a benefit. Again, the state said they would pay for the plan test
Okay, so-
for 10th graders only.
Okay.
And they give us a window in which to do that.
Okay.
I would rather give them the mock ACT if it was up to me.
Thank you for saving money.
Now, those tests, again, this is not a real rapid measure where we get data back and we're able to process this and do individual student programming, but it does help us in our school improvement and our district improvement efforts as well. So those top two levels. And you can see in this chart, they've taken the 4 subtests and they said on average what the students scored on their Explore in the dark bar, the Plan in the middle bar, and then the ACT on the red bar. And these are national growth statistics. You can see that growth, for instance, on the left-hand side is 4.7 nationally from Explore to ACT through the EPASS system. That's the average growth. Well, in actuality, you can't grow 4.7 points because it's only in whole numbers. So it's when you're looking at 150,000 test scores, you can get some decimal points there. So the average growth is about 5 points from Explore to ACT. So we've used this national data to look at our own EPASS results in terms of growth. And I'm going to show you a bunch of charts. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on any one of them, but I wanted to provide you this information so that you could see what our schools are doing to look at this information and make improvements. We really took 2 pieces of data, and just like the value table, this is complicated stuff. We took 2 pieces of information and tried to combine them. I've separated them here. We took 2 pieces of data, those making below average growth and those meeting or above that growth standard. So that 5 points, for instance, in English. And we separated kids that way. We took another piece of information which we talked extensively about last time, which is the college readiness benchmark. And we said these are the kids that are above that benchmark and the kids that are below that benchmark. Both of us, to me, tell us something about how we're doing as a school system, but to me, they actually inform us better if we put those 2 together. And when we put those 2 together, you get this little matrix. And that little matrix has both college readiness and growth merged together. So you're going to see several charts in this presentation, and I would be happy to talk about any one of them that you want me to, but I won't spend a lot of time. The bottom column that's in red there, that would represent the students who did not meet either the college readiness benchmark nor above average growth. So those would be kids that we have some concerns about and want to do something differently instructionally with those students. The kids in the yellow boxes, the top one is kids who met the college readiness, but they weren't growing past the average growth. The kids on the bottom right, in the yellow again, are kids who didn't meet the college readiness, but were growing. Both of those are kind of a plus minus. Again, it would be something for further research. And the kids in the green, this is where we want to push all of our kids, is into that green. This represents kids who met the college readiness benchmark and were above average in their growth. So again, it's taking kids from that red quadrant and pushing them up to that upper right quadrant of growth and attainment, which is that college readiness benchmark. Any questions about that? So let's put this into action. Greg.
When you use the term college readiness, that's really more of a level or a standard.
That's your attainment.
We have, a number of students we push towards vocational studies and all that, and again, I go back to personal growth in that area is just as important as any other personal growth. And so it's really more of a standard that we're throwing out there and use the term college readiness as opposed to.
They're going through the vocational training, do they have to take these tests?
Yep, every student.
So that may not be a big concern for them if they're growing. To me, that's more important than, because if they're on a vocational path, why would they focus on the college readiness thought, which the United States is, lacking in vocational training right now. They say is our biggest problem. Everybody pushes towards college readiness, and that's why I guess I'm not trying to start a debate here, but I've heard
How
that
many of our
debate
students would you offhand, do you think are in the vocational program? Do you know at the high school?
Here's what complicates that discussion a little bit further, Tina, is that really when I know none of this stuff is easy, but they're great discussions, because really what Greg is saying is we want to prepare kids for careers and college. And the discussion and the research shows us that both of those things are synonymous. The same skills that you need to go into a career, you need to be college ready. So it's the same kind of attainment benchmark for all kids, whether you're going to become, a licensed electrician or whether you're going to Northern. That same benchmark. So we are concerned about college readiness because it is also career readiness.
I guess I'm just saying that can be misconstrued for that person that's in that vocational with, oh, I didn't hit the college. Well, I'm not going to college. I don't care. I have a vocation I'm passionate about, and are we looking at them in a different light? And I guess that's why the terms, I'm just kind of having a little bit of trouble with.
And part of that is, to me, that bottom right quadrant that's in yellow there, that's something to celebrate because those are kids who are not at that time meeting the benchmark, but they're growing. And that to me is a real success story. And again, it gets back to looking at kids more individually. We're still grouping, ranking, and sorting kids, but it's looking at kids who have made growth, above average growth, which is great. They're growing more than the average kid, but they're still not quite there in terms of that college readiness benchmark. So there's something to celebrate there. So I'll just do these 4 slides very quickly so that you can see how we've applied this. And this is something that the high school is using for their school improvement effort. So here's the English standard. Again, it's the college readiness on the left. The growth targets are across the top. And you can see that the celebration is that 53.10% of our kids are above average in their growth and meeting college readiness. And that's, to me, something to celebrate in terms of that. Here's the same thing for math. Again, 53.63, growing above the average and meeting college readiness. Reading, a lower percentage. Very typical for high schools to see that be one of our lowest. And then science, which we have seen steady gains in over the past couple of years. Again, it's approaching that 50% benchmark of kids growing and attaining that college readiness. And this is where schools can use this information to say, hey, who are these kids in each of these quadrants, and how can we program differently for these kids? Or what counseling services in terms of career guidance could we give them? Or what intervention should we provide for these students? It helps to individualize that educational program for each student, or each group of students. All right, MAP test. So a MAP test is probably the best, more individualized measure of growth that we have within our district. And we've done MAP testing for about 12 years in the district, but our focus really has become to use these results in a more robust way. So we've given this as kind of a benchmark assessment for many, many years, but we haven't placed a lot of emphasis on this in terms of school improvement or individual student improvement in the past, and that's what we're trying to change. Because if we give a test, one that does take instructional time, we want it to be meaningful and usable data for our staff in schools. We don't want this to just be data that Kelly and I look at in our offices. It has to be usable if we're going to put the time and effort into this. A couple of things to understand about the MAP test is that MAP test happens 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. And the MAP test is given to, across the country, over 8 million students. And what's nice about that is that it provides a large pool of students from which to norm. And that's a really good thing because it helps increase the reliability of the assessment. So MAP test is really like a ladder. I think of it like a ladder. And their ladder, the rungs of that ladder are RIT points. It's a Rausch interval testing scale. So they have these rungs of the ladder, and as they assess students, that ladder just keeps going up and up and up. And MAP is a computer adaptive test. So what that means is that if you get a question right, it gives you a harder question. And it looks for your 50% balance of hard and easy questions. So if you get that harder question right, it gives you a harder question. And it will look for that balance, and that's a computer adaptive test, which means you can actually ask less questions and get a more precise measurement off of that. So that's the MAP test, and they allow us to norm growth. And this is an important thing, this projected growth. So in terms of projected growth, What it says is, I'm going to look to the grade level of each kid and where they start, and then I'm going to look at my 8 million students and see on average how many points did they grow. So a good example is a third grader. A third grader, it knows they're in third grade, and then it looks at their starting point, and it predicts based on the 8 million scores how much that student should grow on average. What's the 50th percentile? That's about 10 points usually, 10 to 12 points, depending on their starting point. If they're a third grader who starts at a really high level, it might be predicting that that student should grow 8 points. But it has a nice big pool of students from which to look at in order to determine average or projected growth. But it's just an interval scale. So this is mean growth projections versus actual. And these are charts that our staff, once the map test window for the year is completed. So Mrs. Knaus talked about wanting map test results. We can only get these results when the window closes. And growth is only available to us at the fall to spring. So we have to wait an entire year to get these bigger numbers or school-wide numbers for us to take a look at. At the end of each map test window, which happens 3 times a year, we close that window and we're able to look at district averages, but in terms of growth, that's only available fall to spring. So we have to wait until the spring to see those growth.
So we could see an individual student's growth, perhaps we just don't have numbers showing us trends in school data.
Right, because we would look at fall to spring.
Okay.
So here's a simple chart that they can say. So it looks at the projected mean growth. So that 8 million student population in grade 2 grew about 15 points. And then the growth projection was 13 points. So we grew more than that average. And you can see that a pretty consistent trend, except when we get into middle school. Here's mathematics. Same, again, we're growing more than the projected growth, which kind of reaffirms what we saw in that state ISAT. We're growing more than the average student. We're adding more value. Here's the map growth rates, the percent of students meeting growth targets. Again, we're looking at different years' data. You can see that the data story here is inconsistency in the percent of students meeting their individual growth targets. And again, in the past, we've not put a lot of emphasis on this, but it's really important for kids to meet at least average growth. To me, that's something that we should expect. To me, Batavia is a high-performing district. They should be meeting at least that 50th percent in terms of growth for our students. And here are the different grades across a number of different years. Here's with the map as well. This chart kind of shows a similar thing, and whenever you see a chart sloping downwards, that's usually not a good thing, but in this case it's okay. When I first saw this chart, I didn't want to put it up because whenever you see a chart going down like this, it's usually a red flag. But in this case, what it looks at is the mean growth versus projected growth. So you should see that the mean growth of our district is in red. The projected mean is in that grayish line, or the tan
I think it's green.
line.
It's greenish.
Greenish line? That other colored line. So you can see that what we really want to happen is that we want the red line to be above the greenish,
Olive drab.
the olive drab line. So we can see that that's the case. 7th grade, again, that would be an area of concern. 3rd grade, an area of concern because we're not above that mean growth. And again, we're starting to see a data story start to emerge over these 3 presentations that we have some concerns systematically for 6th grade and 3rd grade. We saw that in our ISAT results. We're seeing it in our MAP results. Does it mean we go into panic mode or that something's drastically wrong? No, but that's something to further explore about 6th grade and 3rd grade, district-wide. Oops. There's the projected versus mean growth, again, 6th grade, in terms of math for the cohort data.
Can I just ask a question real quickly?
Sure.
Back on the, can you go back a couple slides? Okay, and then again,
looking at these, there's quite a bit of drop in 11, 12 across the board. And on both math and reading. Any thoughts on why?
This is when the district switched the MAP test from the Illinois Standards Test to the Common Core MAP test.
Okay.
So we started to see different types of assessment types being used within the MAP test, and we saw that those assessment types were aligned to the Common Core state standards. So a different set of standards there.
Could 3rd and 6th grade issues also have like some social issues? I mean, that's like a big step up. I mean, 3rd grade is like no longer primary school, and 6th grade is the first year of middle school. I mean, they got a lot other things going on too.
Absolutely, there's a million variables like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here again is that growth table, taking a look at our MAP growth scores. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want you to know that we are looking at students' performance. We're able to look more systematically in terms of their MAP and reading growth because of the MAP test and because of our work on school improvement. One thing that we use to take a look at longitudinal growth of our students is this chart, and I put it in front of you because it's very, very tiny on the screen, is that one thing that we're interested in is that we want our kids to be prepared for the next level of education. And while I don't want to cause alarm bells, that really does start in our primary schools. So what MAP has done is that you can see projections of where a kid starts in 3rd grade as to their level of performance on the ACT. So they've looked at these measures as projections of one another. So if a kid's starting at a particular RIT level in 3rd grade science, they're predicting an ACT score based on that. It's to me really interesting data, and really to me is nice. It's very small, but it shifts our conversation from just the high school preparing kids for college to that's what we're all about, one system. And to me, when you have that conversation about one system working together, that's a much more powerful message.
Conversation in Pistato household.
To me, we're going to do some of our own calculations. Actually, Joanne Smith is working on doing our own calculations for our students in terms of how does this chart
look
Apparently the Ivy League is out.
And this does not mean that if a student scores, you know, it's not written in stone. It's just
It's projection.
it's a projection, but it's of course, you know, several variables can factor into growth, you know, beyond that.
So if you want that Ivy League, you know what RIT score you have.
Exactly, right.
Again, this has helped focus the district around some specific targets, and to me, this is where you get really the power of the educators working together to improve student performance. So under the guidance of Dr. Hitchens, we've set some district MAP goals that are related to national percentiles. You can see in the yellow is our current percentile. So for reading, it would be 57, actually 57.1% of our students met their growth target in reading district-wide. Again, we're looking very big picture here. That would put us at the 76th percentile nationally. We've set some targets to be in the 90th percentile. I think these are achievable targets with the quality of staff that we have here and the focus on this. And that really is a testament to our teachers. I know we're going to see great results as we look at our school improvement plans, our students as well, performing as well. Math, you can see currently 63% of our students are meeting their growth targets, which would put us at the 66th percentile nationally. And again, our target is to get into that 90th percentile. Our school improvement plans are built around this. Grade level plans are built around this. Our evaluations are built around this. Again, not to put so much effort, you know, all your eggs in one basket, but if we have a consistent and clear focus, I think that's where we can achieve results. So that's been a focus of ours this year. And I know that was long, and I know it's been a long night, so I appreciate your attention. It's not easy, but I think it's an important conversation.
I have a couple questions, Brad. And I know I probably should have asked when you had the slides up, but I was just writing them down. The first one is when you said the state, you changed a couple of the tests because the state was gonna pick up the tab.
Yes.
What usually does it cost, would it cost us to give those tests?
6,000? I'm guessing about $6,000.
6,000?
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the 3rd and 6th grade, when you said there was that up and down, and, you know, Melanie touched on it a little bit about, and I could understand, have you seen a national graph of the same thing? Does the 3rd and 6th go, you know, compared to just our district?
There's no national data because some schools still remain on the old Illinois state standards.
Okay.
They haven't made the transition to the Common Core standards. And it's been a big topic of conversation among curriculum directors because they don't want their scores to show that correction year.
Well,
So they've been reluctant
Kind
to
of
move
knew
that
that though, too. I mean,
Well, we gotta
a
move
lot of
sometime.
people knew that it
Right.
should have dropped with the new standards. I mean, not everybody would know, but I mean, most educators kind of knew that was gonna happen at the time. The last question, and I talked to you earlier today about it, was when you do the MAP testing, and you do it 3 times a year, and sometimes there is that drop from different grades. Do we ever look at, I'm just going to use 2nd grade. Do you ever look when there's a major drop or something, did the 2nd grade class, let's say in the fall, take it at 9:30 in the morning, and then in the winter there was a little drop and they took it maybe after lunch or just before, you know, because there's a lot of variables, and I understand that. I'm just wondering, is there something and I know it's a lot of work, and I'm not saying I want this, maybe that's something that we should look at when we start seeing some drastic drops here or there. Is it a different time of day for some of the kids in a different structure on when that test is being taken? And I understand on this new one, they might not finish, they gotta leave and then come back and all that. I get all that from the setup and all that, but also that starting time could be a variable in there. It's possible.
Absolutely. I think that when we look at assessments, we're concerned about 2 things, validity and reliability. Validity is, does the test measure what it says it's going to measure?
Okay.
And then the reliability is, does it do a good job of measuring that in terms of consistency of the results? And one problem that we've had with MAP test, if you have children, you may have said that my MAP test crashed or I got a white screen and I had to go back the next day. We've had some technical issues with MAP that they don't like phone calls from me, but we're trying to work these out with that company because we have a long history of results from them.
Okay.
But there are some of those inconsistencies. We have asked them on several occasions to run reliability quotients for our students to see, again, even with the technical difficulties, it still does have a very high reliability in terms of its testing. So looking at time of day of testing would be a very interesting research project, but I'm going on general reliability scores, which means it's going to measure that on a consistent basis no matter when the kid tests.
Okay, and this might be an unfair question in that when a kid doesn't finish in that time period, because now they got to go out because another group's coming in, what is usually the time frame for that kid to finish it? Is it within that day? A day, 2 days? I mean, how does that work?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I would say it's within a week because they usually do a
Oh,
couple
so
of
it could
grade levels a
be,
week.
they could take the test 2 days later then,
Yeah.
or finish it up 2 days later. Oh, okay. All right.
So the window itself is open for 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
The
3 times a
general
year.
window.
And sometimes we have to extend it because we have 1,500 kids at the middle school that are trying to test.
Okay.
So it's pretty much in and out.
Yeah,
very
I can
rapidly.
speak to the middle school. If a student doesn't finish, they try to get that student to finish as soon as possible. But with trying to schedule on 1,500
Right.
kids, you know, it's availability of the lab and not pulling a student out of another assessment in class, but it could take up to a few days for them to finish.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, the final thing on our agenda is, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session for the appointment. I'm sorry. I just switched to my last page. Apparently, I'm a little eager. Okay, let's go back to comments, administration. Comments.
I don't have any other than to thank BATV. I know they've been here. They were here last night setting up. Holly was here almost all day today setting up. I appreciate the request that so that other people were able to participate. Daniel, on the camera back there, I know you're looking for your hours for your TV productions class, and I think you were in double time with your hours.
Extra credit.
Extra credit. That's all.
That's all from you. Board members, any final comments?
I have some. I always do, I know. Again, I want to thank everyone that came out tonight to speak about the issues in front of us tonight. As Melanie or Megan had said, there were 78 state scholars at Batavia High School this year, and that was very good. She was one of them, I believe, if I saw her name. Congratulations to the... I wanted to wish Cynthia Teagarden success down in North Carolina. She's one of the secretaries over at Hoover Wood, and they're going to miss her. I mean, she is a really nice lady. And I wanted to congratulate Megan and Gilda. They were selected by the Daily Herald honorable mention for leadership team, which was in the paper, and that's always nice when you have more academics. And again, thank you to all my fellow board members, and I want to wish everybody here and everywhere a good season and be safe. Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody?
I just want to thank Kathy for walking me through my first levy, and Dr. Mon and Dr. Hitchens for answering all my questions as elementary, as some of them may have seen to more seasoned veterans. I appreciate all the help you gave me to get me through this process my first time through it.
I only want to make one other comment. This board is really new, and you guys have faced a lot of really hard and interesting topics very quickly, and I am just really proud of the work that you guys have done and the time you have put in and the knowledge that you are determined to gain. And I just think it says something special about us that we are committed more than anything to get information to do the best thing for the kids in our community while still respecting our taxpayers. So I truly appreciate that willingness on your part and all that hard work you put in. So you guys are a good board, and I'm proud of you.
I had some quick comments as well. Thanking everybody who spoke through the public today. Kind of raised a quote that I heard. I'm sure the person who said it's probably held in higher regard and has said it more eloquently. But people who support the truth, people support the truth when it benefits them and tend to oppose the truth when it's not what they want to hear. Overall, I know that we're all doing what we believe is right. In every decision we make, being done so, being fully informed of all sides of the issue, and we're confident in the aspects of the decisions that we're making. I also wanted to congratulate the Grammy Award to Shrek the Musical. That's pretty cool. Very proud of our football team and with all of our athletes. I took part in the Winter Wonderland at Grace McWayne. Tina and Melanie were there too. I was wrapping presents and helping kids out right next to them, and that was really a fun time. We had the breakfast with Santa at JB Nelson, which was great and was attended by my family. I was at Winter Wonderland during that. Oh, you were there as well. Excellent. We had the Lemonade War book discussion at JB Nelson, which was a really fun time. It really was a whole school interactive night that I think was great when it centers around literacy. Also wanted to state that the Chip-In program has been doing some great things. Me and my kids made 4 dozen cookies for those less fortunate, which is really fun and hard to not have them eat 4 dozen cookies. Lastly, let's see here. Go Bulldogs, as always.
Anyone else have any comments?
Just a short one. Earlier, a couple weeks ago, I was able to go to the Louise White PTO meeting. I was invited to that, and one thing that really struck me is that they put on a phenomenal Veterans Day program every year. Mm-hmm. And if you need a good cry, you could put that on your calendar. This year, through the fundraiser that they had with that program, They were able to raise $1,000, and they're donating it to the Honor Flight America, so that will send 2 vets to Washington. It costs $500 a piece, so they're able to send 2, and that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, that program is phenomenal, and I just wanted to share that with everybody. That was pretty neat. I'm really proud of it.
Thanks, Greg. That's great. Anyone else? Okay, now I will entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. And there will be no action after closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Gasper. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Let's adjourn to closed session.